Hello, Keith Keller, Melbourne, Australia, and we've got a big show today. We're going to talk about how to repurpose your content. It's going to be a great, great show. So, we've got a couple of ideas to talk about today and a couple of guests coming in a bit later. The whole concept is, how do you repurpose your online content? I'd love to hear how you do it. I'm going to give you some ideas about how I do it, and I'd love to sort of take this up a notch. If you've got any questions at all, please jump into the chat. We've got a robust chat here. Restream has quite a good chat feature, so that's pretty cool. I'm going to run you through how I do it. So first things first, I send this file to LinkedIn and to YouTube. So that's pretty cool. And you can actually send the file to up to 3 places on the page version. And you can actually, here we go, Americo's coming in now. You can send it to 3 places on the paid version. I choose to send it to LinkedIn and YouTube. And eventually I will send it to Blue Sky when that comes available. Hello, mate. I'll just run through some of the basics and then I'll bring you in. What I've decided to do with this repurposing idea is I've taken it up a notch and used Google Notebook, and I've got a 20-part series here. Very, 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 very exciting. That's pretty interesting. I'm trying out a new site called Nuta today. I'll talk about that in a minute. I've got a couple of people in the back channel trying to get in. That's pretty interesting. I also want to know how you do your content, and I'm very, very interested in setting an intention today to create 10 pieces of content from this show. As I said, I'm sending the file to YouTube and to LinkedIn. I want us collectively as a community up to 10 places. And then we're going to have a bit of a chat about what's next, what's coming. So, mate, jump in. Tell us how you're doing this. This is pretty interesting, the way that we're creating this content now. How do you do it? And tell us your sort of process. I'd love to hear how you do it.
Oh man, how do I do it? I'm still trying to figure it out because things are moving and changing so rapidly. I was just talking this very subject with someone else prior to one of my co-hosts, Shelly Spence, who I host LinkedIn Literacy with, and it almost feels like we have to continuously reinvent ourselves because we're learning that people consume content differently. We understand that there's more value or less value in some of the things that we bring, and it's a continuous ecosystem that we always find or have to find what's growing and how to nurture what's working. So to answer your question, I'm all over the place, but to answer your original question, what am I doing? I've decided that this week I'm going to try something different. I am going to purposely design, nurture, and build my content around my shows. So whether it's restreaming, repurposing, everything that will either lead up to the show will be content, polls, and just information that will feed the show, or content that will precede the show. I think it's
very
easier
strategic, isn't it?
Yeah, it's easier to manage. Why not to leverage what the shows are giving us?
I love
right?
this. I love this. So, there's a couple of ideas here. One is the idea of repurposing the show. Sort of alludes to the fact that the show has been and gone, and you do something else. But Americo has said something very, very, very powerful here, and that is, what do you do before? So let's pull this apart, because we have been talking a lot about this. Pull apart, how do you prepare for your shows, and what do you do beforehand?
So in total, I have 4 shows with different subject matter, but all subject matters kind of feed into one another. So I find, or through research and just having gone live long enough, I'm starting to see a trend that you get more people attend your show, the more you promote it, or the more you talk about and pique curiosity. So now my polls will be strategically placed to feed the audience and to feed my community to get their insight and their sentiment on the subject matter that's coming up on a future show. So if you were to visit my 2 polls, they were designed with intent so that I can now have statistics and quantifiable data to support my subject matter out of those polls.
I love this. Let's just pull this apart. LinkedIn polls are a hidden hack that almost no one uses, and they are so miraculous because, as an example, and I'll throw to Americo this, and Lachelle. Hello, Lachelle. We're talking about the idea of how do you repurpose the show, and more importantly, how do you prepare for it in advance? And what America and I both do is we do these polls. So I'll give you a really cool example. I sent this poll out saying, okay, what is the ideal day for you to come to my show? If you had a perfect day in the week, what would it be? Right. And you can only have 5 choices. So I gave Monday to Friday because I don't work weekends. Right. I thought, okay. Now, amazingly, the community overwhelmingly, something like 48% said, you know what, I really want my shows to be on Fridays. And I said, whoa, okay. The audience has spoken, right? The audience has spoken. And we're experimenting with that, right? Give the audience what they want. The second poll I did as a follow up to pick up on this idea is, okay, now you're saying you want Fridays. What time do you want? And I gave them 4 choices: 10 a.m. in the morning, which is what suits me; 8 p.m. at night, which is what suits the US Eastern time; 6 p.m., because that's mountain time; and 12 p.m., because some people say they want content at lunchtime. And then other times. Some people said, mate, I want you to do your show at 5:30 in the morning. I said, well, there's just no chance. That's not my rhythm. Like, I don't get up till 6, and if I had a choice, I'd get up at 7, and I'm definitely not getting up at 5. No way. So you got to be sensible. But you're playing the same thing out, aren't you, America? You're doing these polls as well, aren't you?
Yes, it's. I was doing polls previously, but it was just to add variety. But now I'm adding intent, which I think is important. For instance, I'll give you one example. One of my polls. It's a question: how do you characterize lurkers on LinkedIn?
Oh,
So,
yeah, the lurker comment.
right,
That was good.
the lurker comment. So this coming Thursday, I have an agenda. We're going to talk about the lurker and the value that the lurker brings. But I wanted to engage with my audience to understand their thought and what lurker means to them from their lens. Are they silent supporters, or are they silent adversaries, or maybe a little bit of both? And so now I know where my audience sits, where my community sits. It's about a 50-50 split. And I can lean into that with my co-host and my guest, and we can have a conversation around their thoughts. So this is building momentum to the show. It precedes the show. It allows me to invite those who participated. I now know whose interest I've piqued, and I can send individual personalized DMs inviting them to attend and join the conversation. So it's all part of the strategy, where in the past I felt like I was spinning my wheels working so hard to come up with content when it was right in front of me and I was just wasn't leveraging it to the best of its ability.
Oh, it's very clever. Yeah, there's a few things going on there, Lachelle, but I'd love to hear how you repurpose your content. You, like us, are probably flat out, and you may not even have time. But have you got a system to repurpose all the content that you're creating? Because you're creating a bit of magic there. What do you think? What, Lachelle? Have we got you there? We got your mic working? Let's just
Yeah,
see.
you were kind of fading in and out. I don't know if that was me or you. Can you hear me?
We can. Yeah, we can.
Okay. So the question was, how do I repurpose content? Is that what you asked me? Because you
Yes.
were fading in and out on my side.
Yeah. How do,
I just want to say that how do I repurpose content? But before I answer, I would love to highlight the fact that you guys are doing these polls. I think for me, what I'm hearing from what you're saying is, you're taking the leadership role when it comes to initiating that engagement, and it is very intentional. It is, it helps the party to be focused on the subject matter. And I think that is powerful because that's a great opportunity to plant the seed and then continue to build from there. So I just wanted to highlight that because I've never even thought about using polls to pre segment a target audience before I even begin. So I just want to give you
oh,
guys
thanks.
your
Have you heard of
flowers on that. That's
have
awesome.
you heard of the concept of ikigai?
Yes. Yes, I have.
So the concept of ikigai, for those who haven't heard of it, there's four principles. One is, what do you want to do? Now that one is not that hard most of the time because most of us know what we like. Some of us do. The really challenging one is, what do people want me to do? This is one of the key principles of ikigai because there doesn't seem much point just doing what you want if no one wants to hear it, although plenty of people do that. And so one of the principles of the polls is, look, I want to create content that you want to hear about. So what do you want to hear about? I'm just going to give you some ideas. Here's four ideas I thought of that I could talk about. Which of these interest you? Please don't ask me to talk about beer or, pets or, or parenting, because I don't have pets and I'm not a dad and I don't drink beer and I don't have any understanding of those principles. But I give people four ideas, and I'm going to talk about this in a minute because it's very, very powerful. And I thought, well, there doesn't seem to be much point me doing shows about things I'm interested in if no one else is interested in them. I might as well just walk around the house, and we've had a whole show about this, and talk to the rooster, you know. Da 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 da. Might as well just talk to yourself. If no one comes and no one's interested, why are you doing it? So, the idea of ikigai says, what do you want? What do people want? What will people pay you for if you're doing this as a career? And are you any good at it? Right? Like, I wouldn't mind being a really good cook, but I'm unfortunately not very good. I wouldn't mind being a better cook. I try my hardest, but my food doesn't taste very good. And my wife just ends up saying, look, get out of here. I'm not having that. I'll cook. I do try. It's just not my natural talent, right? Although I do try, trying to be a nice husband. But so ikigai is the inspiration for my dedication to these polls. Have you tried? Has we inspired you to possibly try some of these, Michelle? What do you think?
Yes, so I've done polls in the past. I just hadn't done them specifically around an event. I think it's just, I mean, that is just so simple and well thought out that, again, it's right in front of you that I think people don't use. And I think, it just reminds me too, where in terms of time management, I don't go to meetings that don't have an agenda because I just feel like it goes off the rails. It's just sometimes not structured and organized. So If someone wants to have a meeting, we have an agenda and we know what we're going to discuss. Otherwise, there's no need to meet. We can communicate back and forth. So this just really is another element of that, because you're able to get people warmed up around the topic, and maybe they might be more engaging when they are there, because you've already kind of given them time to prepare before they get into the discussion. So I
You've
just think
given
it's
you've given
awesome.
them a template.
Hmm.
Yeah, so you've given them a template. So I want to give you this really cool example, and then I'm going to throw to Americo on his polls. But I did this very, very cool show, maybe one of my best shows, called Personal Branding is Far More Than Pretty Pictures. Right? Because I was just sick and tired of all these really silly, ridiculous selfie shots in front of the mirror with the iPhone that had nothing at all to do with the topic that was discussed immediately below them. Right. And I'm thinking, you're just using your girliness to get attention. Why don't you just, and I was getting really sick of it. Right? And I thought, okay, I'm a guy in my 50s, and I've never been pretty, and I've never taken a selfie in front of the mirror. I don't even know how to do that. And I'm thinking, what has this got to do with LinkedIn? Why are you taking these selfies in your gym pants in front of the mirror? What has that got to do with business? Nothing. Right. So I got really quite angry about it. So I did this show, and the person who was on the show, very, very articulate, photographer, said, look, it is important that you look professional, but of course there's got to be more to this. And I'm setting up this point because it's very important. So I did a poll. I'm very, very excited about this because it's going to wrap up today, because polls can go for 2 weeks. What do you think are the most important part of personal branding? 1, pretty pictures. 4%. 4% voted for that. A strong online presence. 10% voted for that. A direct and distinct point of difference. 18% voted for that. And this is the clincher. I'm going to play a little sound. And the winner is an authentic message. 68% said, I don't care what your gym pants are. I don't care what model iPhone you have. What are you talking about? What are you offering me? Bloody brilliant. Like, so brilliant. And to your point, Lachelle, that gave us a strong idea to bounce off. So I did a follow-up poll. Okay, now that we've decided that personal branding's a thing, where do you do it? Is it LinkedIn? Is it YouTube? Is it TikTok? Is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? Is it other? Again, I'm engaging the audience to say, look, we're going to do shows about this, and come to the show ready. I'm giving you plenty of information. I'm not just asking someone in the street willy-nilly, having never heard of me, hey, what do you think personal branding is? Well, you know what, Keith, I've never even heard that word. What does that mean? You're setting the tone, Lachelle. Don't you love that? Setting the tone. We got you there, Lachelle. I think we're losing your signal. I know that.
Oh, I was still on mute. I'm sorry. I have children that are still at home. We have 11 of them, so I always mute in between in case they're mom yelling for something. But I was going to say, I love that, because you can even be strategic, if you wanted to get sponsors for an episode. We're talking, as we continue to grow. They might have a little snippet of something that you read off, and that could be a paid um, place there. But I'm just always thinking about the
No.
marketing aspect.
What
But
I
I
want to
love
say,
that.
you
I think
might
it's
not
really
know
good.
this. You wouldn't know this because it only happened on the weekend. My wife doesn't even know. On Sunday, I'm so proud of this. On Sunday, I got this email. I'm going to talk about this in a minute because I'm so excited. I got this email from a company in France called Nuta.io. And this person, whose name is Pauline, said, mate, a French influencer that I've been talking to recommended you to me. And I would like you to have a look at our site and just have a
Mm.
look around and give me your opinion. And, if you like, talk about it on your show. And if you do that, we'll give you a free membership for 12 months. And I said, what? Isn't
Wow.
that cool? I mean,
Congratulations.
isn't that just the coolest thing?
That is,
Right. So, and this
I
leads
love it.
perfectly into Americo's discussion about the lurkers. Like, I don't know who that person is, but someone in Paris thought enough of me to recommend it to another person who I also don't know. And they were having a discussion about me. And then they contacted me and said, look, we've got this new site. I think you'll like it. It seems to be in alignment with the shows you do. Can you have a look at it? And if you like it, can you talk about it? Oh, yeah, all right. And, isn't it good?
That is
It's
so
exactly what you're
awesome.
talking about.
Yes,
Yeah,
good for you.
yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah. That's the again, I mean, the power of you engaging with people and having them think of you when you're not even in the room. That's
yeah.
awesome.
So, Paul, I only sort of got this moving yesterday. I haven't fully explored it, but what this is the power of me knowing the shows. This is the power of the agenda. When this company contacted me on Sunday afternoon, I said, you know what? I've got a show about this on Tuesday, Monday in the US. Why don't you come on it? I've got a show about this topic. I've been preparing ahead of time. So I frantically worked my way around how it works. It's a pretty cool site. I'll talk about it in a minute. And I got my head around how it works. I said, yeah, this is in alignment with this show. We're talking about repurposing and what this
Mhm.
site does. There's a few of these, but I will talk about this one specifically. What it does is it takes the notes from your show, so you don't have to worry about writing anything down. And when there was this really cool part on the 57th minute, where was that? What do we talk about? Who said that? They take all the notes for you, like minute taker, and then they give you a transcript which has got a timestamp on it and a link to who talked and what they said, and they send it to you in a PDF. And this is the thing I love. They also give you a theme rundown. Okay, we noticed that you talked a lot about multi streaming on this show. Maybe that's a theme you want to explore in a subsequent
Mm.
episode because a lot of people talked about that. Or I noticed that you talked a lot about LinkedIn polls. Maybe you should do a follow up show on that. And they sort of scour the content. I don't think a lot of people do this. Like
Mhm.
Which is otter.ai, it gives you a transcript. It's very good, but it just gives you the transcript. I don't think, please correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think that it gives you a summary. Right? This is a second level. Mate, I want to bring you in, Americo. Have you heard of this sort of concept of reusing your content? And have you heard of this one? Or what are you using to do this one's bloody great. Like, it's really good. And I only found out about it on Sunday. 100,000 people use it apparently, and it's very big in Europe. So like, this is fresh off the press. I don't even know what I'm talking about yet. Like, I mean, this
This,
is so new that I don't even know what I'm talking about.
but
Isn't that cool?
this is a great segue to what you're building. Just last week, you were talking about, you know, wanting organizations like Road to uh, put up product that you would be more than happy to talk about and give away to your listeners. And here we are. Nuda shows up with the same idea, same concept. Hey, this is for them. This is product placement. They are placing their product in front of the audience that they feel would get the most value out of it. So kudos to Nuda. Kudos to the person in France who reached out and connected you. This is the LinkedIn effect uh, in motion. And I might give it a try. I know there's a free version of it, probably not as robust as the paid version, but I'll give it a try. If what you're suggesting is I'm going to get transcriptions for my shows and possible suggestions on what to talk about next, hey, that's time, effort, and energy that's taken off of my plate.
Yeah. And I think this is the like I did say to her in all fairness, how is this site different? Because there are a few of these: Otter, Riverside, Crisp. There's a couple of these. And I said, "Well, how's your site different?" And she says, "Well, have a really good look at this. But this idea of the summary, like imagine America. We do this show, and you get an email that says, "Here's what we talked about, and this particular topic came up a few times. Why don't you do a subsequent show on this? Here's the main points. Why don't you write a blog post about it? Here are a few ideas from additional content that came out of your mouth. Like you were in there. Like you're not making this up, right? You don't wake up in the morning and say, "Oh no, I've got to write another blog post. What do I talk about?" It gives you a list. Here are the top 10 things we talked about in that hour, and this is the order that you talked about them in, and they were pretty funky, and people were interested. Why don't you do something about that? I mean, isn't that genius?
It is genius.
And so that's the point of difference I can see so far. What they do is this is pretty clever. They can actually take a piece of audio that you send them as a WAV file and transcribe it later. So if you've got a recording and you say, "Well, look, I just want a transcript of this bit," they can do a audio to text feature. And what they're now working on, and this is the coolest one, they're now working on a text to audio feature. Well, hey, here's the transcript of what we talked about. Can you just sort of flip that switch and read that to me in a really lovely English accent? I mean, how cool is that? You know, and that's just saving us time.
Yeah.
You know, we are all busy,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I feel this very intensely. And what happened is that nothing happened. I just didn't do it. That's what happened. I just didn't do it. I mean, I was so busy. I thought, look, I want to do it. I just can't get my head around doing it. And I just didn't do it. Like, I'll give you an example. A mate of mine who will probably come on later, he interviewed me 10 weeks ago. 10 weeks ago tomorrow. And I'm thinking, mate, where is it? Where is the file? When are you going to put it out? Come on, 10 weeks ago. What's going on? And I said, look, I'm so desperate for this file. I'll edit it for you. Right? And he still didn't send it to me. And I said, mate, you got to send me the file. I'll edit it for you. But then eventually you're going to have to put it out. What good is it sitting on your C drive? Where is it? Where's it going? I got really pissed off. Like, it's 10 weeks ago. 10 weeks ago. Right? I've almost forgotten about it. I've had to forget about it because I just kept hassling the shit out of him and he did nothing with it. And the point is that we're all busy. He's just busy. He's a good mate of mine. I know he's busy. But that's just a waste of my time now. That was 10 weeks ago.
I don't mean to laugh, but I mean I feel its pain because it's these things happen, and then it gets to be so to the point where you're like, oh my gosh, I mean, you release it and it's like people are like, that is how old, but it is truly, if we're not a part of a process or a system, things fall through the cracks like that. So I totally resonate
So
with that whole
what
thing.
Americo and I have done, and we've tag teamed on this, we have set an intention that every time we do a show, and I'm going to put this out there, like it's the 30-minute mark on the show, and if you're listening to this as a replay and or right live, I'm setting an intention that I want 10 pieces of content to come from this show. 10. I'm sending it to YouTube and LinkedIn. That's 2 pieces of content. I want you as a listener, as a host, as a guest, I want you to take this content and do something with it. Create a blog post, do your own podcast follow-up, do another show. We're doing another show on Thursday about this. So there's the 3rd episode. But what do you think, America? What do you think we can do to get those three pieces of content out? What's the secret sauce to just get a system going?
So we talked about the polls. The polls can be the precursor to the show, and you can chalk that up as a piece of content because it's feeding into the agenda. Coincidentally, I too am re-streaming to my LinkedIn feed as well as my YouTube channel. So you're up to 4 now.
That's 4. That's good. I mean, it doesn't take long. What you'll love, Lachelle, is that America and I have been pushing really hard on this. And we did a show 2 weeks ago. It has had 15 subsequent pieces of content written about it. People in the audience said, mate, this is so clever. I'm writing a blog post for you. I'm so into this. Yeah. And this is what we call user-generated content. Inspire your audience so much that they do the work for you, some of the work. Right? I could pay an assistant, but they would not be involved. It would be a fee-for-service arrangement. Okay, you give me the file. I'll create the words. I don't know what you're talking about, but I'll just say it. And this is fine. And I get it. It all seems to make sense, and the words are all in order, and you're speaking in a grammatically correct way. But I have no idea what you're talking about. This is what I would feel an assistant would do. But if you get a person that says, mate, I'm so into this, and I feel your pain, and mate, I'm going to practice on your content. Like, I feel this. I'm going to practice with you, for you, and let's see how we go. And the power of user-generated content is that, in a way, we're doing about 60% of the work because we've given you the content. All you have to do is polish it up and put it in your channel. Like, I don't know anything about TikTok or Snapchat or YouTube Shorts or any of that. But some people are very good at that. And all they do is they take this content and they put it over there. Cool. Right? It's win-win. Now, obviously, it's much, much better if the content is your content. But who's got time for that? So we create the content, other people reuse it. And in a perfect case scenario, I would wish there was 4 of me. And I just lock 3 versions of myself in a room for a week and go, mate, you are not leaving and you're not getting any food unless you pump out 10 pieces of content. And when you've got them, bingo, you get a biscuit, a cup of tea. And if you're very, very good, I might give you some dinner. Because that's how it feels, right? Like we're slaves to the content. Am I making this up, America? Do you feel this too? Do you feel like
No.
we're slaves to the content?
Well, I got some breaking news for anyone listening. And you were talking about the selfie earlier. I succumbed to the selfie today. Just before we went on live, I dropped a post with my selfie, but there was an intent. I was answering a question earlier today. Someone had asked me, where do you find all this time to do all these live events? And to which, my response was, when you truly enjoy bringing value to others, time just becomes a secondary concern. And to be honest with you, I lean into lives and I'm less of a keyboard warrior because I know it brings a different level of value to the community. People get to hear my audible voice. They get to, it's more personalized. They get to see me. And so I dropped the selfie in. I don't normally show up in selfie format, but I did use that piece of content to kind of get the juices flowing. So to answer the question that I was asked earlier today, where do I find the time? I provided an explanation, provided my response in my post, but now in my comments, I get to re-promote and reinvigorate and pique the curiosity. Hey, here's some upcoming events that triggered this question. And I will drop today's show that I'm speaking here with you. Drop tomorrow's show, and in a few moments I'll drop the others that I'll be hosting throughout the week. But here I am trying to build that energy and plant that seed. We're going to try it out. We're going to test it, see if if it resonates, the polls seem to have worked. We'll build the polls into the conversations. The one thing that I need to get better at, and I'm now, I kind of had a light bulb or an aha moment over the weekend. You hear me talking frequently about my this mantra: be seen, be heard, be remembered. So now it's, how do I incorporate that into my shows? How do I keep the be seen, be heard, and be remembered as my mantra and my value proposition, so that I'm getting the most out of my content? I'm always talking about what's important to me and the value that I bring in those three areas.
Yeah.
Opposed to just trying to be all over the place and just pushing out content and hoping that some of it sticks. It's time to kind of whittle it back. And we hear people say, you got a niche, niche, niche. Well, here's an opportunity to take that similar approach with our content and just make our lives easier.
Oh, it's very important. And Lachelle, I'd love to hear your thoughts because I've watched your YouTube channel. It's bloody good. It's really good. And but I'd imagine that you do the content and then it's
Mm,
you set and forget. Do you spend some time, or do you have a team, or a couple of kids locked in the spare room doing your content for you? What are you thinking? It's amazing. It's amazing. Your content is amazing, but are you repurposing it, or is this your pain point too?
mm. Yeah, for me, that's why I do live, because I just know I'm just a in the moment person because I have 11 kids still at home. So as soon as I get done recording, then it's like I'm back to mom time and everything else, or maybe I have a client call or something like that. I am very energized from conversation because I feel like you can learn so much from people. And being in a conversation, they feel safe and trusting, and you get more from the connection. So, some things that were coming to mind though when you guys were talking is doing a newsletter, because a newsletter is also, at least on LinkedIn, a great way where you can reference your other shows and you can put them in the newsletter. So, like if you have a series or if there's a product. So, for example, with this episode, you can have a link where they can go exactly to the website for um, these people that you're talking about in terms of their product, with being able to summarize. You could link newsletter. Um, and so that's a great place that you really can take the transcript if you wanted to and just do the whole transcript, because with LinkedIn is a search engine, and they really push articles and
Yeah.
long form content in a
I
written
know
format.
Michael. I
So
know
taking that
I know Michael, who's
transcript.
making some
Yeah.
comments here. He has a newsletter, and this would be a very very good one to talk about. I personally don't enjoy writing and or reading, so I don't read other people's newsletters, and I don't feel inspired to do them. But I do know that about 25% of people do like to read, and LinkedIn loves it when you have a newsletter. Have you considered having a newsletter, Americo? Is that
Hmm.
something that you could consider?
I do publish a newsletter. Started a year ago. I started the newsletter on my business page, and it didn't take off, and I was somewhat disappointed until someone brought to my attention and raised awareness that newsletters do a lot better and gain a lot better or improved following and engagement when you post them on your personal page. So I did that,
Hmm.
and I did the switch over in January after learning that I'd get better engagement, and I'm just shy of 1,600 subscribers.
Wow, wow.
Hmm.
The very
Now,
very you go. Yep.
another thing I wanted to add about that is that you can have subscribers for your newsletter that are not a direct connection.
That's
So it
right.
could be a second, third connection. And it comes up under Google. If someone searches for your business or your name, then those newsletters and or articles will come up on Google for you. So again, if this software does transcripts, you can just put the whole transcript and make it a newsletter, or you can create a graphic from the points and put that in your newsletter. Your newsletter can be anything you want it to be. So if they've
This is an
already
important.
created the summary for you, you could just plug it in and there you go.
Okay, so let's pick up on this idea of the 10 pieces of content. Um, 10 pieces of content, one of which could be a newsletter. Now, this is very, very, very important. I know that Mike has a newsletter and it's working for him. Do you want to pick up on how you're using that, mate? How are you using your newsletter and does it work?
It I need to get more cadence or better cadence, but depending on the subject. And I think having a tool like you showed now, Nuda, would help because to your point, I think we all struggle with an empty screen. And so, you know, getting assistance now, some amount I use constantly. I use AI as a brainstorm. I don't necessarily use it to write, but I do use it to kind of get me started.
Mm.
And something like Nuda, which is taking what you've already said and allowing you to shift it into text, I think would be a cool tool. Now, what I wrote in the notes in the comments was textual permanence builds community and allows your audience to interact with you. So there's very limited interaction in a broadcast. You can have some people, making comments, but by and large, and America has talked about this too, is there's really a second life to your content, to your broadcast content, and that is people listening. And we've talked about this, Keith, where I'm a avid consumer of YouTube, but mostly replays, not lives for the most part. And I listen to them. I don't watch them. And I think there's X amount. I would probably have to do some research on this, but I think X amount that's true of because you point we're all busy and we are. But if there's something a host that I'm really interested in, I want to be able to at least maybe even listen to it on 2X or something until I hear something that I really wanted to hone in on. So I'm kind of excited to hear how other tools that you have for repurposing.
Yeah, look, I want to pick up on this. I personally do not resonate with the idea of replays. I personally never listen to them. It's not part of my lifestyle, but I understand that a lot of people do. How important are replays? Let's have that discussion. How important are replays in your content strategy? What do you think, Lachelle? You were all about.
I
Yeah.
love I love replays because um one, not a lot of people listen to replays. So it's a great way for you to go back to the host or the guests that were on the show and you make a great connection with them. Hey, I enjoyed that conversation. And one thing about a replay, I just love information and learning. But you don't have to listen to the whole thing, right? You can get a key takeaway and reach out to them. I've been invited on podcasts, guests for a number of things simply from engaging. So I think it's a very important strategy because people feel even more attracted to you because they've created this content that they don't even know if it resonated with anybody. So the fact that you reach out and say, "Oh, I heard your show. I didn't get to watch it live." I mean, you have their undivided attention. So that's my thought about
Yeah,
the
I think
replays.
you're right. And it picks up on this, and you may not have heard me talking about this, Michael, but on the weekend, a really lovely person in Paris called Pauline. Hello, Pauline, because she's probably going to listen to the replay. Contacted me and says, "Mate, we've heard you're a bit of a dude. Do you want to try our site for a year and give us a bit of a thought on that and talk about it?" Now, she found out about that from another person living in Paris who I still haven't found out who that is. So two people in Paris are having a coffee. Sounds like a joke, right? Two influencers walk into a bar, talk about this random Aussie. You know, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And then she reached out to me and said, "Look, I listened to your show. You're pretty funny. I want you to come on my show, or I want you to promote my product, or I want you to dot dot dot." So without the replays, you're losing half the audience, I reckon. And I've got to do more in that regard. Like I've got to do more. And so with this site, Nuta.io, they create a transcript. And let me just paint a picture of why that's so important. They actually do a transcript which is time stamped. So at the 46-minute mark, we're talking about Nuta and timestamps. Now you can go to the transcript and look for 46 minutes. Keith spoke about timestamps. You can take that part out, put it in your newsletter, right? Now, unbelievable. What it also does, which I haven't seen done before, only because I'm not looking, is that they do summaries. Okay, well, you talked a lot about this concept of timestamps, Keith. You mentioned it at the 46-minute mark and the 1 hour 46-minute mark and the 10-hour 17-minute mark. And mate, don't you ever sleep. It creates a summary. So it means that at your leisure, when you can skim through it and say, hey, there's these recurring themes that people want me to talk about. It's more research to do. No point talking at the wall. But if you get these concepts that people want to hear about continuously, it just gives you excellent feedback. Can you imagine yourself using this, Michael? It's a pretty cool tool. What do you think?
As I mentioned, I would like to give it a whirl. Now, I'm not clear, can I use this for any meeting and take notes on any meeting?
Yes. This is important. I've just done some research on this. It works very well with Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and Google Meet, which are the
Not
main
Go
ones.
Brunch.
And I'm guessing. Actually, we'll talk about this in a minute. Richard from Go Brunch recommends another site called Crisp. I'll talk about this in a minute because this is actually very important. I'm sure
Okay.
it would work with Go Brunch, but Richard has already found another site called Crisp. Sorry, Pauline. We'll just edit that part out. So that's what Richard, our friend from Brazil, uses. And so it works specifically with Zoom, Teams, and Google Meet. And that's where it mainly excels. But we can try it. We can try and see if we can plug it in. But Richard's already added a plug-in for Crisp, which does take notes as well. And let me talk about that briefly. I want to just at the 48-minute mark, we switched content. Sorry, Pauline. I'm going to come back to you, but because my friend Pauline in Paris wants me to talk about her site, but we have to talk about it in context. So the site Crisp, KRISP.ai, is a site that allows you to crisp your audio, makes your audio better. Like that's what it's designed for. But it also has this note-taking feature. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that you could take notes with Crisp because it's a noise cancellation software. But it actually has this feature. And so Richard from Go Brunch uses that. It's built in to Go Brunch, I think. So that's possibly an idea. But you haven't been using the note-taking feature on Go Brunch yet, Richard? Sorry, Michael, you didn't know about it?
I've used Crisp before, and sort of took over my my microphone and such because because it's doing the noise cancel well.
Yeah, it is very interesting that noise cancel. This is actually a very important point. Noise cancellation as a positive takes out all of the stuff in the background, the cat's meowing, the fan going on your computer, the person mowing the lawn, the television. But it also it sort of compresses the sound and sometimes actually doesn't sound that good. And it's a bit choppy. Right. And if you don't use it wisely, it actually makes it sound worse in a different way. Lachelle, have you got a noise cancellation thing, or do you just use your laptop? Or you're just talking to your laptop as you find it? Is that your sort of thing?
Yeah, I don't have any noise cancellation, not unless it's the like an attachment or something that's on my phone if I'm out. But one thing that was coming up when you guys were talking is, with the summary, it also can be a great tool for you to strategically do lead generation. So, I know your shows, they cover a lot of different topics, and different things come up in real time. So it could be a topic that you might not have anticipated before the show, but something comes up with a very creative spin, and you can do lead generation around asking people within LinkedIn who might be an expert on that topic. So it could help you with future
This is
guests and
actually
things of that
why
nature.
I love live shows. Like, I don't do preconceived formatted content. I love what you just said for exactly why you said it. Like, we've just now morphed into a new conversation that we weren't expecting. And that can lead on to another show, another blog post, another concept, another excuse to ring up and have a Zoom call or a coffee. And it's the anticipation, it's the flexibility, it's the unknown that I love. Like, one thing I hate, I hope this doesn't offend anyone listening, I hate webinars. I hate them. Here's me talking about, here's the PowerPoint slide and here's me talking and I've prepared it all ahead of time and it's so boring. So boring. I never watch them. So I'm so bored by that. But when you've got two people talking and then someone comes in, and Axel, my friend from Melbourne, Axel has come in. He's got to go into a meeting, so he can't come on the show now. But he's a mate of mine from Melbourne. Really cool dude. So that's the sort of the funness, the lifeness, the sort of live component. That means that we don't know what we're going to get. I love that part. I know it's a little bit uncertain, but the point is that I don't know where this show's going. I don't know what I'm going to learn today. And that is so exciting to me. I mean, I don't particularly want to learn about needlework or how to, change nappies. And I don't know if I could hold that conversation very well. But, we talk about things like replays versus, the lurkers versus creating content versus webinars. And these are all concepts within a field of concepts, within a topic range, like an encyclopedia. So there's no wrong or right answer. I mean, some people like the pre-formatted questions. I remember once I used to do a radio show in 2008, and I had this girl, a friend of mine, call in from Vancouver, and she says, "Can you please give me the questions ahead of time?" I said, "Yeah, look, I get that. You want to prepare." And she wrote out every answer, and she sent it to me. And then when she was interviewed, she read out her answers. And I said, "Please do not ever do that again." That show was the most boring show I've ever personally been involved in. She read out her preconceived answers that she wrote out the night before. And I'm thinking that this is so boring. There's no life in it, right? But then again, it was known. It was a subject. We knew what the agenda was. I totally get why you have to have some structure, but you've got to also have some spontaneity. And I'm a little bit sort of right on the edge of that spectrum. I don't even have guests anymore. Like, I don't have preconceived guests, mainly because they don't turn up. And I'm sick of talking to the rooster. So I just go with it now. I just wing it. What about you, Lachelle? Do you sometimes have guests not turn up, and how do you manage that when that happens?
I'm my own guest. If nobody shows up, then I'll be going live. And I'm a person that if it's on the calendar, it's happening. So I will do something else. I'll pivot quickly. But there's power in having a show and being consistent, um, because people expect you to show up. And whether they're live or if they have a routine of, it's just content that you can. I mean, I've listened to Americo and all the different things that he's creating a runway for his audience for all the different places he's going to show up. I think we can learn to work so much smarter and not harder when we take control of educating or engaging with our audiences in a way that gives us less stress, but it's also intentional with the topics and the conversations we want to have. So they can pick and choose what
That's
they
right.
want to
That's
participate
exactly
in.
right.
And even if they can't make it, you can say, if you can't make it live, invite a friend, and whoever has invited the most people, they can get a prize or something.
That's
Fine,
right.
you can
We've
do
talked
whatever
about
you
the
want.
prizes. Yeah. Look, I love this idea of creating a runway, and I want to pick up on this idea of planning ahead. I want to just pick up on the idea of honoring the fact that not everyone can come live. I get that. I totally get that, even though that's my preference. Someone once said to me, mate, I'll think I can remember to come tomorrow. What do you mean you'll think you'll remember? I mean, haven't you heard of a calendar? If you want to go, just go. I think I'll remember to pay my gas bill. And if I can't pay my gas bill, please don't fire me. I just forgot. What do you mean you forgot? The gas bill is due on the 28th of April. Just pay it. My show is on Wednesdays at 10 o'clock. Come or not. What do you mean you might come? Come or not. I don't understand this. I don't understand people saying, oh, look, I'll try and remember to come. Well, don't try. Just come. And if you can't come, there's a replay, right? I get that. So what I've done with this in mind, because a lot of people are saying this, I'm very proud of this. Like, I've never seen this done before. I've created a 20-part series on SoundCloud, my Sounds in the Cloud, where virtually every subject that we've talked about this year is covered in a 5-minute summary. I'm so proud of this. So if you can't come to my shows and you can't sit through my long shows, you can go to this summary page, soundcloud.com/Keith Keller, and there are 20 episodes with a very clear title, How to Reduce Echo on Your Calls. Right? Oh, that's good. I need to know that. Click, goes for 5 minutes. You learn something, and then you go off and do something else. And there's every topic has a very clear message and a bit of a transcript to tell you what it's about, and only goes 5 minutes. So I just wanted to mention that repurposing has many formats, and that's how I'm doing it, because I'm not really into words. I don't write and I don't like reading. So this is my thing. But it does come back to the idea of how are we repurposing. We're dancing around a bit here, Americo, but how are you doing it? I'd love to hear your thoughts. What's going on with you in this arena?
So repurposing, I love your SoundCloud account. I love the fact that it compresses some great subject matter into 5-minute summaries. I'm still playing around with editing videos. To be honest with you, I'm kind of growing tired of it because I didn't realize that for every minute I talk takes about 3 minutes to edit. So
yeah,
you're
quadrupling.
3
minutes.
Yeah.
I've actually said, because I'm pretty good at audio editing, if you want a finished product, just multiply that by 10. So if you want a 60-minute Smicko audio podcast, that's going to take you 10 hours. Right? Now, people go, mate, that's got to be bullshit. I mean, 10 hours. Well, you try it. You got to listen to it. You got to take the bit out. You got to listen to it again. You got to compress it, listen to it. Then you got to EQ it. Then you got to listen to it. Then you got to add reverb. Then you got to listen to it. You go, okay, well, I find, oh shit, I missed a bit. And then you got to do it all again. So it takes hours and hours and hours, doesn't it, mate? It's
Yeah.
time consuming. Like it's hell on earth editing. I hate it.
Yeah, it's time consuming, and then this whole aspect ratio. So if you're taking video that you've recorded in landscape or 16:9 and you want to repurpose it somewhere else in 9:16, that's a whole other dilemma, because if you want it to look aesthetically pleasing, then that's what you got to do on different platforms. So I'm thinking that my lives will serve its purpose in its raw format, and my repurposing will be newsletters, blogs, and just smaller written text, maybe a graphic, but nothing else. I am leaning into and leveraging positive comments that come out of our posts. If you were to visit my feed for the last couple of weeks, we had some great comments coming out from our audience, and I've taken that and repurposed it and used 11 labs to convert text to speech.
I love what you're doing there. I think it's 11labs.io.
Yeah.
You've taken a piece of content that says, America's very clever. I would thoroughly recommend his show, which actually did happen. A person did say that. And then you actually take that piece of text and you get it read by a really lovely Scottish person, maybe sounding like Sean Connery. Hey, America's really clever. I would thoroughly recommend his show. And I mean, that's pretty clever. That's a pretty good repurposing, isn't it?
But that's repurposing what someone said verbatim. I'm not making it up. So that's what makes it more, I guess, palatable. I think it adds to the value, and it really resonates what I'm trying to build. It's part of the runway. I like this whole runway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's have this discussion. Has anyone else heard of 11 Labs? Have you heard of this show now? Lachelle, have you heard of 11 Labs?
I have not heard of that.
So 11 Labs, which is like a massive extension of the Google Notebook idea. I'll talk about Google Notebook in a minute. 11 Labs is a site that has created a text-to-speech, a text-to-audio format. So you give it the audio, you give it the text, and it will read it out for you in every accent known to mankind. So, I really want this to be read out by a Maharaj in the Punjab. Okay, let's just find a really lovely, well-spoken Maharaj in the Punjab. If that's not a contradiction in terms, I think that's correct religiously. And we'll get him or her to read this out to you. And it's bloody good. Now, I don't know what ethical boundaries we're tackling on here, but imagine if you really like the sound of an well-spoken English voice, or a sort of an upper-class English lady, or you really like this Aussie voice thing. Imagine if they cloned the Keith Keller. Oh, mate, Americo's such a good bloke. You got to listen to his show. He's such a dude. Like, imagine if you cloned my voice. It would be bloody awful. But, imagine, I want an Aussie voice from Melbourne. Like Keith. I want Keith to read it out. But you don't know Keith. You don't want to be paying him $100 an hour just to read out your stuff. So you go onto 11 Labs. Now, this must transcend a whole lot of ethical boundaries, but it's a very cool site. And I think they've got every English accent known to mankind, haven't they? And even all the other accents too, and all the other languages. Yeah. I think they've got all languages. I can't speak
And
any other languages, but
they also allow you to, at least on the free version, they allow you to create up to 3 unique voices. So you can combine, like a Scottish accent, or Scottish American, and it'll try to put together your prompt and give it a voice.
wow, man. But
Mm.
well, imagine that. Like my parents, my family in 1898 were from Darmstadt, Germany. So imagine if you said, okay, I want a rural German accent from the Lutheran era who moved to Australia in the 19th century and lived on a farm. So I want this rural German accent superimposed over a rural Australian accent. And then we just mix them up. Mate, that'd be so interesting. Look, that's got to be ethically dangerous. But what do you think, Michael? Are we tackling some ground that really no one's thought of, or is this where it's all going?
I'm interested actually in splitting up videos, and I think we talked about this, and I'm going to dump something, but yeah, I think text to voice or audio I'm looking at too, because I write so much.
Yeah, for me, it's important. I don't read at all. I mean, I can read. For a while there, I thought I couldn't, but I can. I can read. I just don't like it. I'm just lazy. But if Sean Connery read out my emails, I would just sit here all day. Now, Keith, we have a proposal for you. I can't do a Scottish accent, but I'll just do the sort of the tone. Now, Keith, we've got a proposal for you. If you look at our website, can you please give us a rating out of 8? And if you like it, we'll give you a 20% bonus on everything that you buy over 6 to 12 months. Signed off, marketing team. All right, no worries. I haven't got any interest in that product, but I liked hearing about it.
So here's the other thing that 11 Labs does for those who are worried about ethics. For the paid version, you can clone your voice and create your own voice persona. So if you enjoy writing and don't enjoy regurgitating what you wrote into an audible event, and then you just copy and paste it, and the voice that you've cloned will create an audio clip for you.
It's very, very interesting times. And let's just take a step back. And for those who have joined us just recently, we're at the 1 hour mark. So it's important that we recap. What we're talking about here is we're talking about how do you repurpose your content in a world where there is so much content, like so much so that I'm starting a new show soon called The Anchor Day, which is every Wednesday from 10 a.m. starting in July. I'm just going to have one show a week where we just settle, we anchor and say, look, what's happening? I can't keep up with all these things. Let's just have a sensible discussion about what's going on. And I'm going to be the sort of chair of that. I feel compelled to sort of settle. And I've got this little really lovely picture of a beach and an anchor on the beach saying, this one show once a week is your place to come back and just regroup. So we're all feeling this. There's so much going on that our brains are just spinning. Sometimes it's exciting. Sometimes it's just overwhelming. So as we enter the second hour, we're talking about how do you repurpose your content? And I would love to hear from you. How do you repurpose your content? What we've done is we've set the intention that today we are going to try, with the various tools we're talking about, to collectively make 10 pieces of content out of this one show. We're already sending the show to LinkedIn and to YouTube, and I'm doing that, and so is Americo. So that's 4 pieces of content. I'm going to create something probably with Google Notebook. That's 5 pieces of content. We've also talked about having a newsletter. And we've also talked about this brand new site I've discovered called neuter.io. So with that in mind, let's regroup, give everyone who's joined the call a chance to catch up and join in. So Bez, I know, is listening in. Axel is in a meeting. So Bez, if you want to come in, I'd love to have you. We in a way, I'm doing this show for you, because I know if I said to you, what are you doing? The answer is nothing, because I know you, like me, are feeling very, very distressed. But let's start. I want to give Bez a bit of a heads up. Lachelle, how are you doing it? How are you managing all of your content? And one very good answer to that is, I just do the lives and that's it. Is that the answer? Is that what you do? You just do the lives and that's it?
Yeah, it is. I love content because it never gets old. You can always repurpose it. I'm just thinking while we're talking, like, you can create an email campaign around scheduling out, specific topics. So one of the things I do is I get on this site, nationaltoday.com, and it has like all these different random days, like from a person's name. It might be Keith Day, it might be Ice Cream Day, or whatever. It's a number of different things. And I can schedule some of my content around that. There's certain months, like it might be Autism Month or financial literacy and these things. And so, you know, again, I'm talking about working smarter and harder and going back and looking at the content that we already have and repurposing it along the themes that may be occurring. You also could offer them as lead magnets for certain events. So let's say someone's having a in-person event, and you want to gift their audience with a segment of your show, or something. I think we have to get creative because there's a lot of value to the content that we have. And sometimes when you're doing it in real time, you don't really know what that is until later on when you get a summary and you're like, wow, that idea was great. And, when you're in the moment, you're still kind of juggling the guest or maybe the comments. And, even though you feel like you're present, you still sometimes don't catch it all. So the fact that you have that summary, again, I'm still stuck on how that could really be a great tool to help you to dial in a little bit better with your audience. And, you can design how you want them to travel down a specific road. So if you have a book that's coming out, at the end of the year, you can, that whatever the book is about, you can start creating those topics and leading up to them and continuing to build up that know, like, trust through those different repurposed content um, vehicles. So it doesn't seem like you're hitting them over the head with the same thing. It's like, oh my gosh, this is a newsletter. And, you're just adding all, they don't feel like you're trying to sell them. They feel like, they're getting to know you
I
better.
love this.
So
Let me
that's
pick up
what
on
was
this.
coming up for me.
There's a couple. See, even within that concept, there's 3 concepts. So the first concept is this idea that we can repurpose based on themes. This idea that you've got content and you go, you know what, 3 shows ago we talked about that and that was really good. That would be really good for National Pancake Day or National Star Trek Day. There is
Mhm.
one, like there's Star Trek Day. So there's
Yeah,
a
there
Star
is.
Trek Day,
There
and we
is.
had to look at Star Trek, like May the 4th be with you, right? May the 4th be with you, right? Which is
Right.
Star Wars. So we could
Hmm.
have a May the 4th be with you show. But in order to prepare for that, we may have talked
Hmm.
about Star Wars and Yoda in previous episodes, and we can go and tap that content. So the idea of having themes in our content's very, very clever. What I was going to say is that I do this exact thing, but in reverse. I know my style is that I like to plan ahead, and I typically have about 3 month shows planned ahead. I know that I've got a show in the first week of July because that's when I'm starting again. I'm having a bit of a break. So I'm now starting to book shows in July. Now, to your point, when I contact someone and they say, Matt, I'd like to come on your show, I look at what they do and I look at the shows I'm doing and I'm going, you would be a perfect fit for my show on January 18th, 2028. I'm joking to make a point. So why don't we do some content around that? We'll do some content around that. We'll prepare it. We'll do a blog post. We'll do a little bit of a video. We'll do some follow-up calls. And when you come to the show that's on, we're ready. It's not random. So this is why I love to plan ahead. So when, for instance, Nuta contacted me on Sunday, I said, look, I've got a show about this. It's amazingly 2 days away, and I'm going to prep. I knew what to talk about because I already had the show ready. So, but what you're doing is you're doing the reverse. This is bloody genius. The idea of having themes: Ice Cream Day, Pancake Day, Star Trek Day, May the 4th be with you, the Super Bowl, the AFL Grand Final, Australia Day, Independence Day. These all have themes.
Mm-hmm.
And chances are you've talked about them in passing in other shows. And imagine if you could tap that in a small 5-minute interview and regurgitate it as a way to push people down the funnel, what you call the runway. That way nothing is random anymore. It might seem random to people that are not following along, but we have a plan. We know what we're going to talk about. We know when the shows are on. It's our job to let people know ahead of time. Sometimes I wonder why people don't take any notice. I mean, I planned 3 months ahead. I don't know how people don't know that. But I'm in my own head.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm not doing a very good job about
Well, because
that.
people, they have a lot going on. And also, you're able to be more relevant when things are happening. So, if everybody is talking about, I don't know, AI, and you have some other theme that you've already covered, you can steal the show from everybody else because you can pivot when everybody else can't. Because a lot of times people are just, again, we're on this routine process. It's not to say that, or systems, I'm saying that's important so that you can be consistent. But when you have this type of thinking around being relevant to your audience, that can really set you apart because you can do something that's relative, that might be trending, or it is very specific to your industry or things like that. Turn on a dime when everybody else, they may not be able to do that because they need more time to pivot.
It's extremely important. Like, I mean, we often talk about, I often talk about the concept that, is anyone listening to our content? But we are competing with 8 billion other beings for attention, whether it's your own child or there's something on TV or there's something going on at the pictures. We are competing with everyone for time. So if we can be relevant, we've got much better chance of standing out, haven't we? We just got a much better chance of standing out. It's just so cool, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Now, with that in mind, I'll bring Bez in. I know you've come into the call late. We're talking about repurposing. I'm going to give you 2 opportunities here. One is, what are you doing to repurpose? And have you got any questions about repurposing? Because I know it's a bit of a pain point for you. What are you thinking?
Well, I like what Lachelle was talking about, developing themes, because when I develop themes, then I can organize my content and even make a series if it's around a theme. And what I have done is download calendars for the year, like what's going on. There's a Hispanic Latino calendar there. So there's some important dates that I can look at the American calendar. What are some holidays that I need to maybe keep an eye on? International Women's Day. What I did is when I ran the 10-week sprint during the first week of March, leading up to March the 8th, which I believe was a Saturday or Sunday, I did a uh, International Women's Day week, the whole week, and I had women lead the conversation. So, it was really easy. If I look at a calendar, I plan ahead, and I line up the speakers, and they get behind the theme, as Lachelle was saying. And if you give me enough lead time, they get really excited. They plan for it. They give you a good title. They come prepared. You give them the format, and they knock it out. And what's happened is that the people consuming the content love it. Because they find someone who's energetic, prepared, and delivers quality and value. So I'm a big fan of the themes, and I'm starting to pick up on that, Lachelle. It helps me so much to think about what I'm going to do in the future. And then that allows me, Keith, to come back on the back end and repurpose and figure that out. That's something I'm working on, but I'm looking at some possible tools to do that. So that are AI enhanced, so that it helps me and cuts down on my time.
Yeah, the other advantage of preparing is that nothing pisses me off more than when there's a theme that someone says, "Hey, guess what? Today is National Pancake Day, so I thought I'd just grab my favorite bikini and go to the beach and have a pancake because it's National Pancake Day." And I thought of that 10 minutes ago. Guess what? I'm here. National Pancake Day. Look at me. And I'm thinking, well, that's not really a content. That's just jumping on a trend. But if you think ahead and you think, no, this is coming up, what's the point of National Pancake Day and what's the symbolism of it and how does it affect business? And you create a really well thought out piece of content, suddenly that becomes a joy, a very well thought out piece of content that's strategic, not sort of opportunistic. So our planning is so important. Yeah.
Yeah, like even something that may get you free publicity is if you see what your community, what events are on the docket for them, and then you plan your content around that, you may even get some free newspaper publicity on that. You see, when the producers are looking for the stuff that they're going to use in their news, they're looking for stuff that's relevant and timely. And go get ahead of it and make sure that you're in sync with what they're talking about that day. Plan it out and maybe even offer it up as a piece you're willing to do for them. Now, what have you done for them? Like your local radio, your local TV station, you've actually made their job easier. But you gotta get ahead of the curve, go on the themes, look at the calendar, hack what your local community is doing, and all of a sudden, people know who you are, and then they're reaching out to you. It's like, hey, I didn't know you did that. Like to know more.
Yeah, bingo. Because it's a win-win, isn't it? They are looking for content for Pancake Day. They want something substantial and well thought out, don't they?
Well, yeah, and usually if you do that ahead of time, like I don't know what Pancake Day is. Bikini and pancakes don't they don't correlate with me. So I'm just like, but I'm going with it, Keith. But if you do that ahead of time, see, you're making their life so much easier. You wanted some publicity, you wanted some TV love, you wanted some radio love, but all you're pitching is yourself and how great you are, and you're trying to get, and it's not relevant or timely. So why don't you think of something that would serve the community and tell them you're willing to do it for free? What do you get on the back end? Hey, a whole lot of publicity.
No, it's very.
Well, and I think another thing, like if you were doing Pancake Day, just using that example, if you had a local restaurant or something, you could reach out to them. Hey, it's Pancake Day, whatever date. I'm doing a show. Would you be willing to give some gift cards to some of my listeners? And you could do some
Yes.
pancake trivia or something.
Yes.
You know,
So you're also giving a shout out to whoever's you got some gift cards you're giving away. It's a win-win. It's like a love triangle, isn't it, Lachelle? Everybody's getting love.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, we've got some questions from the audience. Thank you, Barbara, for the great advice that she's enjoying. Brandy is there. And also, let me see if I can say that right. Odiambo. I'd love you. We can have 10 people on the show, and I'd love you to come up on stage. Barbara, I don't think we're connected, but I'll connect with you in a minute. Let's pick up on an audience question. And we have a question from the audience. Hey, this is live. How do we measure impact? You go first. You're always doing this with Rotary. How do you measure the power of your impact? Is it a stat? Is it a feeling? Is it a document? How do you do it?
I think one of the things that Rotary does, that especially if you're going to put money behind it and you're getting what they call the Rotary Foundation, we call it TRF, which is a Guide Star a 4-star, 92 cents out of every dollar goes to the actual project. Very, very well known and reputable. Is they ask for they want a needs assessment done. Like we may think this poor neighborhood needs X, Y, and Z because we just think so. What if you want to hack it or do what other people do to measure impact, like Rotary, go ask them, do a needs assessment, find out what the community really needs instead of what you think they need. Now, from that, once you find out what, and this is, I'm just using this as an example. So whoever you're targeting, if you find out what their needs are, now you have something you can measure and reverse engineer and put some metrics behind. And you know what? That metric will be meaningful to the impact you're trying to deliver. But ask the person who is on the receiving end what is really important. And I think no matter what, you're going to get a win if you do the work correctly.
Oh, love this. Ask the person who's receiving the gift what they want. I mean, man, that's so clever. I never thought of that. I mean, I would never have thought of that. Because what we do, and I'm guessing this has happened to everyone, we think we know what needs to be done. But why don't you just ask the person who's going to benefit what they want? Bloody genius. How do we measure impact? Ask. Wow, there's a whole blog post in that. Remember, we're trying to get 10 out of today. That's a good one. Brandy, I've just sent you the link if you want to join us. We can have 10 people on stage. Michael, what do you think? How do we measure impact? What a great question.
I'm going to share a personal story. I had a situation this week, posted something. Bez, in his infinite kindness, had posted sort of a follow-up, giving me a bit of a boost from a professional standpoint. A gentleman that I hadn't heard of or heard from in 30 years saw that post because I think he's one of my contacts. Don't know how it showed up in his feed. And he said that I had made an impact on his life 30 years ago. That was very meaningful, obviously, to me personally, but it shows we sometimes don't know. So we're looking at metrics, we're looking at reach, we're looking at this, we're looking at that, we're looking at stats. I would argue to some degree we don't know, but we can find out if we're paying attention through our audience. our audience will tell us.
It's such a great question. I wanted to, and this is again another example of how we can get our 10 pieces of content. How do we measure impact? What do you think, Americo? How would you measure your impact? And has this inspired you to possibly do some content about that?
I really like Michael's story. It's fascinating how someone who he was connected to and hasn't heard from in years just goes to show you being seen, heard, and remembered. And remembered is, I know Michael always adds be valued, but being remembered doesn't go away. What you say today, how you treat someone, it it is forever remembered. So you always want to choose wisely. What do you want to be remembered for? Uh, there's a lot of great subject content that will come out of this show. I assure you. Um, I got ideas kind of swimming in my head and trying to figure out where I can place it.
I think this is why I'm so inspired to do this show. What often we've done this a few times. What often happens now is we know there's gold in here, but we haven't been able to dig it out. What I'm giving you today, and we'll talk about this at great length now because I think this is a great segue into this, is that we need to find ways to dig out the gold that we have in these shows. And I'm gonna every time I do a show, I'm going to set an intention that people on the call do something with it, and that collectively we get 10 pieces of content from the one show that we do. So we've mentioned Neuter.ai, and that is a site that I'm sort of focusing on today because a little bit like what Michael said, how do you measure impact? A random person that I didn't know was recommended by a random person that I didn't know, and this person contacted me and wants me now to have a look at their site and give it them an assessment. Right, two people I don't even know contacted me from content I did months ago. That's got to be some form of impact, right? But we need to understand how we're creating impact. So I'm going to send everyone on the call a screenshot of them in the frame, and I want you to use whatever is on the screen at that time to create some content around that, and or whatever you want to do. But so we've mentioned a site called Neuter, Noota, and I want to just shout out to Pauline for giving me a look at that. But there's others to do, and let's have a look at that. What's next? So Michael uses a really cool site, many of us do now, a site called Go Brunch. It's a very cool site, gobrunch.com, and it recommends a site called Crisp, KRISP .ai. I want to send this link to, I think, Richard or Robert. I think he anglicized his name to Robert. Find me, mate, and I'll send you the link. I'm trying to do two things at one time. So Crisp, which is KRISP.ai, is a variation of what we're talking about, and they're all variations. So it's really just a matter of whatever suits you. What Crisp does is it's got a component of audio, and it makes your audio crisp, which is why they've coined that. That's what the site's about. They happen to do transcripts, but it's not their core product. Has anyone used Crisp, and does anyone want to start there before I move on to the other sites, which I'll talk about as well? Have you heard of this one, Lachelle? Crisp.ai? This would be very good for you, given that you talk into a laptop.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that.
So,
So
yeah,
this is new to me.
because
I'm not really popular with a lot of AI, even though, I mean, we do have a lot of AI that's built into a number of processes that I'm sure we don't even realize. But
Yeah.
that's interesting. I'm
Yeah.
taking
So
notes over here.
crisp.ai, fundamentally a noise reduction, a noise improvement site, does also do transcripts. It's not its core product, but it does both. This is why Go Brunch uses it. Mate, America, you could benefit from this. Have you heard of Crisp? Does that inspire you to try it?
It does inspire me to try it. I learned today that it's an extension on the Go Branch, so guess what I'm going to be doing? Be connecting that extension. Definitely something that I can make use of for sure.
Yeah. And I'm just guessing you're talking in your laptop now?
No, it does sound different, doesn't it?
Yeah. What are you doing?
I don't know, but
Is
I'm
it?
noticing an echo.
Yeah. So what Crisp does, and I'm going to keep mentioning it because that's each of the, and this is what you notice as you start getting down the rabbit hole of tech. Not everything is the same. I mean, Pepsi and Coke do taste differently if you can be bothered trying them. I mean, they do taste different. Like they're not the same. And so brands of orange juice and brands of cars and brands of TVs and brands of phones, they have slightly different use cases, even though they are indeed just what they are. It's a car. You drive it to get stuff at the shops. That's what I think of a car as. I get in the car, I drive, I park, I buy things, I come home. That's what I use my car for. But other people love cars and they go, man, I wouldn't mind a Porsche because they're only 100,000, and if I get wifey in a good mood, I might get one for my birthday. But $100,000 for a car, right? It's not my thing. So these pieces of tech are all just pieces of tech, but they all have a different use case. Crisp is very, very good for podcasters and live streamers. I haven't tested its transcript feature, and it might be okay, but it's not its core product. There's another one which I'm very excited about called Treble with two B's, treble.fm. And what it does is it's purpose built for people that want to make their podcasts sound better. Treble.fm. It's purpose built. It does do transcripts, and that's a part of its service. And these are actually in the show notes if you want to follow along on the actual link. Treble.fm is purpose built for people that have a podcast but want to make it sound better. That's where it's positioning itself, right? Very good. And directly related to that, another site called Riverside FM. They're all competitors, Pepsi and Coke and Apple and Android. Everyone wants a piece of this AI agent page, right? They all want a piece. Riverside.fm is a very good site that has inbuilt tech that makes your podcast sound better. Now, it's up to us to try these things and just try one at a time. You can only drive one car at a time. Just drive a car, see if you like it. If you like it, you can buy it, keep it for a year, and just switch them. I don't know. I'm not into cars, but you only need one television. You only need one phone. You only need one piece of tech. So treble.fm might be, for instance, very good for you, Bez. Can you give us a bit of an update about how your podcast is going, for instance? I think it might be a good one for you. What do you think?
Actually, I I was at Treble is on AppSumo again. So yeah,
They've got a deal going.
Yeah, they got a deal going, lifetime deal. So I'm gonna grab it from AppSumo. So it's pretty good. Even if I bought it outside of the lifetime deal, it was a pretty reasonable product. So I talked with some of the people over at the network today. We're trying to see how they can help me so we can get it going, because we've got a few distributions, not only the radio, but they're really hot right now on doing the streaming TV part of it. so Roku and Amazon. And so that they want to see what some of my shows get that out as well. So anyway, so it's a process. I'm trying to get some help right now, and I have been going back and forth with our friend Portia here in Atlanta to see if I can get her on this project you and I have been talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
Love it. I love it. So there's 3 examples in addition to Nuta.io, which I'm personally attached to because this very lovely person called Pauline contacted me from Paris, France, and offered me a 12-month trial. Just putting it out there, full disclosure, and I like it. It seems to do the job, and it has some cool features. Right? But these other sites, Crisp, Treble, and Riverside, they're all good. They're all different price structures. They're all different feature sets. My job, and I love this job, I try things, right? They're all good. There's no right or wrong answer. It's like if you like Indian food, there's 6 Indian restaurants within a 5-kilometer drive from my house, and we have tried them all. You don't have to have Indian twice in one day, but every Saturday night we go to an Indian restaurant, one this way, one that way, and we compare them. Oh, they have nice momos. Oh, their curry was a bit hot. Oh, their bread was a bit dry. Oh, I like this one. Good vibe, quite cheap. Good. There's a bar nearby, easy to park. At the end of the day, we're eating Indian food. They're all the same, but they've got slight differences. You might not even like Indian food, so you wouldn't go to any of them. Right? There's 5 within 5-minute drive from my house. You've got to move to Melbourne. It's the coolest place to live, because there's restaurants everywhere. So Crisp, Treble, and Riverside. Anyone have any questions in the audience, or anyone have any questions about that before I move on? Because I want to give people a choice of tools to try. I am trying to get you into the call, but because I can only send you the link if you're following me. So if you're not following me, if you're not connected to me, I can't send you the link. It's a very weak system, and I apologize for this. It's not as good as Twitter Spaces were, but we don't have that feature anymore. We do have, of course, X Spaces, but X is not very good anymore. So we've met based on Twitter Spaces years ago, and this format is very, very, very different. I want to bring you into the call, but I can't send you the link unless you follow me. And so please, you've got to initiate that. And when you do, I'll bring you in. I can indeed put the link in the chat, but it's not live. So you would have to copy and paste that, and it's very clumsy, but I'll try it. It doesn't create a live link, does it, when we do that? It's not clickable, is it? Does anyone have any ideas about how we can get people into the call on Restream when they are not following us? You can't click this link, can you?
I'm going to drop it in. Give me a second here.
Drop it into the link, into the LinkedIn page?
Yeah. I will copy and paste it from the studio and drop it into the LinkedIn. Yeah. Do I sound better now?
Oh, are you trying to let the guy he starts with an O, because he just connected back with me, because I can send him the link if you want me to.
Please. Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
all right, hang on.
The LinkedIn audio events were so much better than this for this, but we are where we are. Unless you're directly connected to me, I cannot send you the link, and unless you click on the link, you can't get in. And really, I wish there was a join button. A few people have said this to me. Why isn't there a join button, Keith? Why can't I just put up my hand and join? But that feature, it doesn't exist, and it does piss me off. But the link is not clickable. So someone is going to have to send you that link. So please,
I just sent it to him. He's got it in his messages, LinkedIn messages.
Bingo. Now, I love this. And this is like the global story. I'm going to put Lachelle right in the middle. A rose in amongst many thorns. So, which of those sites, Lachelle, possibly would resonate for you? Do you think? Oh,
I think I like the idea of the crisp AI. It sounds interesting. Um, I've been on Riverside before. I was part of a series for someone that they were doing a study on non-traditional healing or something. I can't quite remember the thing. So, Riverside was pretty good. Trouble's the only one that I have no idea. I've never heard that, but you were mentioning Chris from the beginning of the show. So, I think, you have to try them out to see
yeah,
what really
yeah,
resonates with you. Sometimes trying something new can spark a different um, part of your process that you hadn't even
yeah,
anticipated before. Like the one that you were saying that does the summaries. I think when you have that in real time, then that actually can motivate you to take that information and do something with it right away. So you'd be surprised at what some of these things might
yeah. Well,
spark for you.
the thing that I love about Nuta.io is that it gives you not only a summary of what was discussed, but a few action items. So it might say something like, "We noticed you're talking a lot about AI on this call. Have you thought about creating a show about AI?" Okay, so I'm going to give you this. So we've got you now. This show, and I do know who you are, but I'm so sorry I can't pronounce your name. I think you used to call yourself Robert. Is that right, Robert or Richard? What this show is an audio only show. So can you put your thumbnail on? Turn your video off, and then look for a thumbnail like this. It's a new idea I'm trying. I realize it's quite unconventional, and a lot of people don't like me for it. But I'm, I'm I did this I did this poll this week. Actually, I'll pick up on this because we're into our third hour now. A lot of people weren't on the call when we were talking about this. I did a series of polls about branding. And the question I asked was, what is the most important part of branding? One, is it pretty pictures? 4% said that branding is about pretty pictures. 4%. Is it about being authentic? 68% said it's about being authentic. Now, being on video is not authentic for me. I can do it. I have done it. I don't like it. So if I did it, I would be going against my own nature. And because of that, I wouldn't enjoy the show and the show wouldn't be any good. So I'm going to go with that principle and say, you know what? I am an audio dude. And I'm going to go with the idea that I love creating audio shows, even though no one else is doing them. And I do get a lot of bullshit about it. I do. I get a lot of really quite intense comments about this. But it's no point me it's no point me doing video because I don't want to. And they wouldn't be any good because I don't want to do them. So while we're waiting for Ogala to come back with the thumbnail, what do you think, Lachelle? Are you on the same train with me with being authentic, or do you sometimes play the game just to get the content out? I'd love to hear your story. You've done a lot of work in this field. Do you sometimes play the game, or do you stick to your guns?
I stick to my guns. I'm all about being authentic because it's the one thing that that opens up so many doors for you. This happened to me this past weekend. I went to a Joyce Meyer conference with John Maxwell. And before I left, I have a book that Joyce wrote and one that John Maxwell wrote. And I was just intentional about, well, if I run into him, I have a book so they can sign it. That was just my intention with that expectation. So it was the last day of the conference, and we were getting ready to go into the last session. And I said, let me just run to the restroom. So when I was in the restroom, I was on one side of the sink, and a lady came by next to me, and she wanted to use the soap dispenser on her sink was broken. So I got done with mine, and we made a comment about the sink being broken or something. And so while I was drying my hands, I was like, so how are you enjoying the conference? And she's like, oh, it's nice. And I said, so where are you from? And so she said, well, I work for the conference. And I said, oh, well, how long have you been working with them? Where are you from? And she said, well, I'm Joyce Meyer's daughter. And I was like, what? I said, we have to take a picture. We've got to take a picture. And she's like, okay, let's just get out of the bathroom first. So we got out of the bathroom. And remember, I was telling you what I do with these pictures, right? And get their phone number and text them. So I get my phone out, and there's no storage. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have any storage. So my friend who was with me, she was still in the bathroom. So she came out, and I was like, can you take our picture? And she's like, I don't have any storage. So then Joyce's daughter says, okay, I'll take it with my phone. So we get somebody to take our picture. She puts my name and phone number in her phone and texts
Oh
me the
wow!
pictures. So so it was so awesome. I was able to, do a mini interview with her. But I say that because if I wasn't my authentic self with having conversation with people, I could have simply just
Yep.
smiled with her in the
You
bathroom
just
like a
never know,
normal
do you?
person
You would
and would
never
have
know.
never known. You
It's
see what I'm saying?
unbelievable. It's
Yeah. So always be
always
you.
be you.
That's my
So,
point.
I'm
Hmm.
very dogged about this. I know this for sure, and I want to share these stats. 50% of people love video, and so by me not doing video, I am missing out on 50% of the audience. I get that, and everyone talks about the TikTokification of the world. Well, I don't like TikTok, and don't ask me. I don't like it. I'm not using it. Please don't ask me. So I'm missing out on that idea, the TikTokification of the world. I get that. But if I was to do TikTok because everyone else is doing it, I wouldn't be into it. It would be crap content because I'm just doing it because it's a trend. Whereas I'm really into this. Like, I've never seen others doing this. Please send me anything like this you've ever seen. I've never seen people doing this. Like, no one's doing this. Right? So I'm just going to be myself, and I'm going to be the king of audio content. Right? And it just reminds me of a Go West song. I'm the king of wishful thinking. I'm the king of audio content. I can make a bit of a song out of that. So I think it's very, 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 very important. What it does mean is that we've got someone on the call that can't work out how to use the thumbnail, and he's missing out. And I get that, and I do apologize for that. I'm trying desperately to talk and use my two hands and think and send him a message at the same time. It's very, very, very difficult. I really probably need a producer now. I think this show has got to a level where I might need to pay someone to do the backstory. I may need a wingman. I don't know. But I think you've got to be authentic. What do you think, Americo? Do you think sometimes you can play the game and do what's needed, or do you have to stick to your guns? It's a very important concept. It's a very important concept. Be authentic.
Yeah, there's no doubt that not being authentic um, isn't going to get you anywhere. As much as people try, we're very good. If you've been around the block, if you've seen what unauthentic and authentic looks and feels like, you can see right through it. And I think it's important that we all bring our best selves. And you know what? authenticity sometimes comes with flaws, and that's okay. People want to see the flawed version because they resonate with it. So it doesn't have to be polished. And kind of coining on your phrase, you need to be okay with yourself sucking at something before you become good at it. And that's my comparison to authenticity. Don't be afraid to be horrible at something
Yeah,
and
and
suck at it.
I'm really interested in this, and I can do video. I've done it. I didn't like it. Wasn't very good at it. I didn't like it. I'm never gonna get good at it because I don't want to get good at it. Like I wouldn't mind being a good cook, but I'm just not, and I'm not committed enough to learn it. Whereas I love audio, and I'm always dreaming about getting new gadgets. I contacted Zoom. This is a very cool example. I'm going to just morph into a bit of a sort of a possible sponsorship story. Not yet, but hopefully. I'm pushing really, really, really hard to get Zoom to send me some stuff. Now, they don't see the value of what I do yet, but I'm pushing hard. Right. And the Zoom P2, which just came out, has some quite serious flaws. It doesn't work with the Blue Yeti, and it doesn't work with the Samsung 2QU. Right now, that's like saying buying a car without a spare tire. You know, it doesn't work with two of the most popular microphones on the market. And I saw this video yesterday about this concept that we've got this brand new product from Zoom. So I'm really, really, really into tech, and I'm going to solve that problem. I don't know how to do it yet, but I'm going to solve it. And when I do, I'm going to talk about it, and I'll be the dude that saved it, the man who killed Liberty Valance. You know, I'm going to be the guy who solves this problem. I don't know how to do it yet, but I'm going to do it because that's authentic for me. Zoom, the P22, they're $175. They're very, very good unless you have a Blue Yeti. And Michael, it doesn't work with the Samsung 2QU. How cool is that? How stupid is that? Can you believe it? Why would you buy
No,
one? You'd be really
I
pissed off.
can't.
You can't. So my job in the world, and if I was making all these really stupid videos, I wouldn't have thought of this. So I contacted Zoom yesterday, and it's their choice. They don't see the wisdom of my wisdom. They don't see it. I get it. I'm just another guy in Melbourne, Australia, looking for free stuff. I think I'm pretty clever, but they don't think that. So I'm pushing really, really hard to get one of these in my hand so I can solve this problem. Right? Someone's got to solve this problem, and I want to be that person. Doesn't work with the Blue Yeti. Doesn't work with the Samsung 2QU. But that's shocking. It's like buying a car without a steering wheel. I mean, bloody hell. I'm pretty embarrassed for them. Like, I've been really pushing this. So it's about being authentic. And I'm rambling on about it, but the point is that there is so much content now that unless you are authentic, you just don't stand a chance of getting out there and for anyone listening to you. So if anyone else is connected to Robert Ogala, I think his name's Robert, we're not connected, so I can't send him any details about how to solve his problem. He's got to put his thumbnail on in order to come on the show. I really do need a producer, or my brain is hurting. But let's regroup.
Well, what do you need? What do you need, Keith?
Well,
what's-
you're connected to him. Can you try and
am.
get? Can you send him a thumbnail? Can you send him a shot of a thumbnail? Can we try and
Ro-
get him on the stage?
Okay, Robert, what?
Well, Philip. That's right. His name's Philip Ogala. I know he's there, but he hasn't got his thumbnail on, right? And I want him to have his thumbnail on so he can come on the show because that's the look we want for this show.
Oh,
What
yeah,
we
yeah,
could
yeah,
do,
yeah.
what we could do, just for fun, I'll bring him on.
He actually has a on his LinkedIn he does. He doesn't have it on his
So Philip, that's right. I was trying to remember your name, Philip. I know who you are, and I'm so sorry. This site is very, very, very clumsy in exactly the scenario we just described. here's a person who I haven't seen for 2 years. Twitter Spaces was so much better than this, wasn't it? We got you there, Philip. You want to turn your mic on and go?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
We can. We can.
Yeah, how have you been, Kate? It's been a minute, man. Long time.
Yeah, I know. And you asked a very, very good question, and that is, how do you measure impact, or how do you measure the results? How do you do it?
First of all, thank you. I really like the conversation. I've been offline, I think, for 2 years now. I deleted my Twitter accounts, my Instagram, and basically I have no digital footprint. I wanted to start afresh. Being on the front line for the last 2 decades made me ask myself so many questions, especially how we measure impact. Because growing up in Africa, working for the humanitarian space for the last 2 decades, for me, the question on impact has me at the back of my mind, where I'll give an example. Let's say, for example, the UN or the Red Cross or the humanitarian agencies in Africa. I've seen a pattern where they will do a fundraiser or a campaign, support a girl, support a boy, But the question I keep asking myself, don't these boys grow up to become mothers? Don't these girls grow up to become women? Don't these boys grow up to become men? So for me, I see a pattern where decade after decade, we are telling stories of African communities. And now and I like the word you've used, that TikTokification of the world, where now even the villages in my community have access to internet, but they're still not part of the conversation. So for me, the impact I want to see is, if Kate, you are funding me to build a school in my project, in my village, can I see the village be part of the story? If you funded me, let's say $100,000, can we see that money being accounted for by the beneficiaries, where they are part of the story, where they say, hey, Keith, thanks for the podcast. I'm now in the village, I can podcast. So I still see a lot of storytelling from a donor-driven perspective, where it's a donor speaking on behalf of the community. So for me, the impact I'm looking for is immersive storytelling, where communities are complementing the donors. That's the lack I'm seeing. Thanks.
Yeah. I think let's pick up on this. So how do we measure impact? Now, this is an NGO not-for-profit story. Let's flick the switch. If you do get a chance to put your thumbnail on, that'd be lovely. I think it'd just look more visually pleasing. But let's run with the tech challenges we're having. Americo, with your work, how do you measure impact? Do you work with NGOs? Have you got any NGOs in your sort of sphere? How do you do it?
I do not work with any. Um, well, that's a loaded question.
I think what Bez was saying was very good, and that is that ask the people that you're trying to help what they want.
Yeah, there's no doubt that asking, but to some degree, you have to be able to sift through those who are telling you what you want to hear versus those who are being their authentic selves and telling where they
Yes,
really
what
need help, right?
social proof.
Exactly.
Yeah, they say, you know what, I know you want me to tell you that you want to build a well, and you would get kudos from your boss if you built a well. So what I'm going to tell you is that 3 of my friends want a well. And can we be friends now?
Yes.
And can I get that pizza you promised me? So social proof is a sort of a bit of a filter that says, look, I'm trying to guess what you want me to say. But what about you, Lachelle? How would you measure impact in the not-for-profit field? How would you measure what we're doing and how it results in what we're doing for benefit?
I currently am helping with a fundraiser for Children's Miracle Network. And I think for me, it is people taking action, because we have a lot of tendencies for people to try to say the right thing and post the right thing. But it's actually, at the end of the day, what are your actual markers that you're using? And are people engaging and actually taking action? I think that's the best way to see that there's impact, because I think there's a difference between people being motivated to keep um, bringing up things and talking about it, as opposed to people being inspired to take action, because anybody can talk. But I think it really, for me, the measurement is when people take action on whatever it is. It's like, we talk about these call to actions for a lot of different things that we're doing. But if nobody is taking action on the things that we're asking them to, I mean, I think that's a
Yeah,
no
well, I'll give
brainer,
you
right?
a really good example. I went out with a mate of mine on the weekend, and they're going to build. There's a big golf course near our house. It's a very clear example, and they're going to have 800 houses in this small area of a golf course, right? And there's a community outcry, right? And my mate who lives near the golf course says, "Oh, mate, we got to do something." I said, "Okay, what do we do?" "Well, I don't know, but we got to do something." I said, "Yeah, but what do we do? Give me something to do." "Well, I don't know. I just want to do something. I feel so angry." "Yeah, give me a measurable task, yes or no." So what I did was I contacted my local member and I said, "Here's a picture of what they're going to do. Surely this is a bit out of place. What are you doing about it?" "Oh, thanks for contacting me, Keith. We're onto this. And here's what we're doing. Measurable tasks. The community objects. Tick. This is what we did. Tick. What's next?" Right? Measurable, discernible agenda. Right? And I got back to him and says, "Mate, we're onto it." He says, "Oh, it's so good. More people need to get involved." "Yeah, well, we need to get involved, but we need to do something. You just don't want to yell at the wall. It's like a dog barking at the moon, right?" Actually, a very good example. I've seen dogs barking at the moon. A dog barking at the moon, it's this shiny object in the sky. We have to do something. We have to measure our results. We have to have an attempt. Yeah. What do you think, Philip? Are we getting closer? Are we getting closer to that? And thanks for adding your thumbnail. Are we getting closer to that? How do you measure impact? What's the result you want? And are we subject to social proof and what people think we want them to say?
For me, I'll give an example of the recent clamp on by President Trump on funding in Africa by the USAID, where I see in my country and many countries in Africa where immediately after there was a funding freeze, you'll see hospitals complaining, you'll see NGOs complaining. So the question I keep asking, it's been like maybe 4 or 5 decades of funding from the USAID in Africa and in my country, but we still don't get to hear voices of the community. We're not seeing the impact from the funding agency to the communities on the ground. So for me, that there's a big disconnect, especially from a humanitarian perspective, where the communications, the engagement is being done from it's donor-led, not community-led. So for me, impact is seeing changes. Impact is seeing that girl who Keith donated books 10 years ago. She's now a mother, and she's saying, "Hey, due to the donation I got 10 years ago, I'm now in school. I'm now building this. I'm now building a business." So I'm still seeing disconnect. And even in the tech space, when you look at the tech space right now, Keith, there are so many hackathons in Africa, so many. But do these hackathons involve the people? Do these hackathons bring solutions? So I think it's time we have like communities also being part of the impact, the feedback loop, where it's not just a report where donors want to hear what they want to hear, and also having like reports which can change ecosystem, can change cultures, can change mindsets. So for me, I can say the humanitarian space is still, and I'm speaking from my experience, is still donor-led. We don't have community involvement. That's all I meant.
Is that because they don't want to be involved?
It's because for so many years, like you'll find bulk of my community cannot speak English. So you'll find donors will send researchers from, let's say, America or Europe who will come to Africa, to my village, and they will think of a let's say, for example, I'll give an example in the Maasai community in my village. These are heavily nomadic people. They scavenge for food. So there's an agency which came and built toilets. But these are nomadic people. They travel half the year. They keep moving from area to area. So those toilets were not used by them. So for me, I find it was a waste of time. So for me, Kate, what I'm looking at is, with the explosion of the internet space right now, I think every village, every corner of Africa has a phone. How are we using those villages? How are we engaging them? How are they part of the storytelling? That's the gap which I'm still seeing.
That's a very good question, especially
Yeah.
because they do have, and Bez, jump in here. You are very heavily involved in Rotary. What would your take be on that? I don't know anything about NGOs. I'm just a guy who works from my home office in Melbourne, Australia. I can walk to the beach in 10 minutes and I like drinking lattes. I'm not involved in the non-profit sector at all. I don't understand it. I don't have any experience there, although I realise they need our help. I don't understand it. What would you recommend, Bez?
Well, I resonate with what Philip is saying. You have to, it has to be community led, because, he gave a great example of what's very common when it's donor led, right? Now, I know Miracle was mentioning, hey, how do you sift through what is, the real need and whatnot? And, well, that depends. How stringent is your process on the front end as an NGO? And what do you do as a follow up or even during the project? Right. And so sometimes, we have to trust and verify. We may, the community, it may say, hey, we need a well. Okay. But when you show up, there's 3 other NGOs that have put a well in there. So why do you need yours, right? So sometimes you have to say, okay, sometimes they just want one to come, but 3 are offering, and that's a misuse of community resources and resources that could be put somewhere else, right? So it there's this whole 360 that's involved. But Philip mentions a good one. Or what if you're nomadic? Like, what if you don't speak the language? So it's all one way communication, right? And I'll give you an example. So Rotary uh, puts out a lot in around the world for its members to do projects, what we call anywhere from district grants to what we call international global grants. And those are more involved. The minimum that clubs together or one club have to commit is $30,000. And then from there, they can make the project as big as they want. It's small, but the minimum size is 30,000. So there's quite a commitment, which means that there's now a process on the front end, during the project, and on the back end. And what I have seen some of the most successful people within Rotary is that they get tapped on the shoulder to an invite only to present to Rotary International, what we call on the secret menu. It's not advertised, it's not nothing. Nobody knows it until they tap you on the shoulder. But I actually know one of those individuals, and he did a peanut butter thing to help with starvation. Like, there's a lot of nutrients in peanut butter, but he used the local people. He had a whole infrastructure there so that it could be sustainable year in and year out. Okay. Because he would always, he was this retired physician, and he had this scientist hair that was sticking out, and he was always going around asking for money. And but he one year he needed a Land Cruiser. The next year, like, he really built an infrastructure over in whatever village he was in, and he employed the local people to do that, right? So now the money's circulating, everything's benefiting that region. And now Rotary taps him on the shoulder and wants him to present Rotary International. Now, instead of scrambling for dollars, they're now going to throw kerosene on the fire and 10x it, right? Because they saw something. So it behooves people that are doing this to really let the community lead it. Not only lead it, but let the community get involved in the sustainability of it, so that it's there for many, many, many years. When people see projects like that, they want to get involved, because that's money well spent and money well received by the community.
I got a story for y'all.
Please jump in.
I don't even know if I told Bez this one. So I was involved with an NGO that built a village center in Ponzala, Uganda. We had a man on the ground that was our translator. Had other community leaders. We dealt with I can't remember what their titles were, but very involved early on. So I call it putting your mouth where your money is, and your feet. So we had gone over and basically did a village meeting and did an assessment. So we one was so that they could have offices for the village elders. But one of the main things was that the kindergarten or younger children were playing in basically goat feces. So there was a a medical reason, and also to have a place where they could be taught or watched over. And this was obviously in Uganda near the Sudan. It's actually very hot too. So this was covered. It was actually near a very large tree that they use as a village center, basically. So that was adding permanence to this village. Now, they had tukuls, which are those round huts with thatched roofs. But so that was one thing. We brought over a small herd of goats to act as both meat and milk for the children and meat for whomever. We also supported the widows and orphans. And there we took pictures of them and then sent them back to the States to get them sponsored. The point was, and so I'm basically resonating with what Philip and Bez have said, is that you really need to involve the locals. And so you're not going to run into a situation like Philip was talking about, where you're building toilets for people that are mobile. So yeah, I would say from an NGO perspective, particularly in these types of situations where there's extreme poverty, and in Uganda there's a school, the average education level is 8th grade. They do have a few universities. I think there's one university in the capital city.
And you know what's amazing is that there is a lot of also great universities in Africa in different parts that they teach great things. And what we're starting to notice, because I'm a recruiter, as an emerging market, right? There's good talent out there, very good talent. And but sometimes we need to take the work there in order to build sustainable economies, right? You don't need to bring everything to United States, right? Because one thing that doesn't get tariffed typically is software and professional services, right? Those really fly under the radar. So it's and you benefit the local economy. I mean, I've seen some actually nonprofits really are high up on the talent that they have there, because of the universities are really good. Right now, Africa is very big, huge. So it's you've got you've got the cities and you got the rural areas, and you have that's a challenge, definitely. But Yeah, there's some amazing stuff going there. In fact, I remember in the 90s, I had a friend that was part of the telecommunications in some areas. I think he was from Morocco, so there's that part of Africa, and he was helping build that infrastructure. But they didn't do copper, which is what we were here in the United States using. You had it at you. A lot of us had an actual phone a phone in the house, right? The copper went up to your house, and they went straight to cellular because it wasn't feasible or cost effective to go how you know we were doing it from back in the old days. They went straight. Their technology went quite faster, and I don't know if you guys noticed this, but in some parts of Africa, they were doing a lot with mobile payments before. Here in the United States, we were doing stuff with mobile payments. So I don't know if you're familiar with that. So there's a lot of stuff that's been tested there with the infrastructure that I have seen come back to the United States and be utilized as well.
I think they were also doing micropayments.
Yes, micropayments.
Yep. Yep.
With a phone.
Yep. Yeah, to your point, I mean, there's certain places. I think there was. I want to say someplace in China too. They just skipped over wired communication right to cellular because it made a lot more sense.
Yeah. So true, so true. So yeah, this has been a great conversation.
Yeah. It is amazing how what we've actually chatted about today, and this is a very good example, is that we start with a topic. How do we repurpose our content online? But two hours in, we come up with a really amazing segue. I'm not even sure how we got from there to here, but we then have this really interesting conversation, which becomes a subsequent theme. Nothing to do with the original show. And so it seems a shame not to do something with that. And that brings us back to the idea that what are we doing with our content when we create it? I think Philip is having trouble sticking with us, but what would you do with this content, Bez, 2 hours in? How do you propose moving forward that we take this content now and do something with it?
Well, we pick a topic or two that was discussed, and we take maybe a screenshot and write about it. Or like I think I need to catch up with you is. And I wasn't able after the last meeting, but you took it and chopped it up into some sound bites or video MP4s. I don't know how you did it. And then you can put a summary of what that snippet is about. That makes it something that, and then a link to it. Say, hey, if you want to listen to the whole segment, here's the whole. I think you have it on SoundCloud. So
let me pick up a couple of things we can do. So the way I'm doing it, and I want to really pull apart this because we do need to do this better. We all feel this really intensely. What I've decided to do with my little patch is two things. One is I send the file to LinkedIn and YouTube, and that is the full complete replay once the show is finished. That's one level of repurposing the replay. But what I now do is I create smaller snippets based on the main themes of the show. And I've got 20 small snippets, which each go 5 minutes, that cover pretty much all of the topics that we've talked about so far this year. I'm so proud of that. I'm really, really proud of that. So you might not want to hear everything about everything, but there's a concept, for instance, yesterday. How do I get rid of echo on my calls? Because we've talked about that a few times. So I did a 5-minute snippet about that. Now that's going to be very targeted for someone who's interested in getting rid of echo on their call. There's another discussion about what microphone should I buy, or why should I do LinkedIn audio events, or what's happening and where are we going with this? What's the future? What does the future hold? But what we have said is that we really, really want people to create content from their position on the topics that interest them. And as I said, I've been embarrassed, but I don't know anything about the NGO market. I just don't know about it. I just don't have any experience in that field. So I can't really add anything to it, that discussion, because I don't know anything about it. But I do know a lot about how to make my mic sound better. And I do know how to make my echo go away. And that's the topics I talk about. So we each have a piece of that puzzle. So we've been going about 2.5 hours. Let's wrap up and bring everything home. We've talked about quite a lot of tools. The one tool I really wanted to pick up on is a site called Noota, NOOTA.io. There is quite a robust free version, like anything. There's always a good free version. And then you get more if you pay more, which I guess would make sense. That's called Noota.io. Bez, you mentioned that Treble has a very, very, very good offer now. Can you tell us about that? Because that's a very cool site, treble.fm. What does it do, and what is the offer? Do you know what the offer is?
I guess I should unmute. Yeah, I was just looking at it. Let me go back there. I'm not on the browser that has my account, but let me go there. I think it was you get 120 minutes a month, and it was a lifetime deal. Hang on, I'll tell you right now. Because I think you can also, it's $69 for a lifetime deal. So what it does, it edits the spoken audio or video like you're editing a Word document. So it reminds me a lot like Descript, right? And it's got 1, 2, 3, 4.5 tacos or something like that, which is a pretty high rating. Our friend Zakia is a huge fan of it and actually has become friends with the founder. So I think I'm gonna grab it at $69, 120 minutes. Yeah, with the stuff I do with the video and audio shows I'm trying to launch. I can start with 120 a month, and if I need more, maybe buy a few more minutes. So sounds like a good deal.
Yeah, the thing about I had never heard of the lifetime deals. I'm so out of that universe. Noota is a pay per month model. I will ask them if they have a lifetime deal, but my gut feeling is that they've gone past it now. They've got 100,000 users.
Oh yeah, they don't need a lifetime deal.
They've got 100,000 users paying them $30 a month, say. And so that would be not very good for their business if they had a lifetime deal, because that's $69 one time, but very good for us. So for $69, you get to use this treble.fm forever for one price. I mean, bloody brilliant. Now, what it does, and it's purpose built for people that have a show, it makes your audio sound better, and it makes your editing faster. Like, that's what it does. That's why you would buy it. So if you've got a podcast and it doesn't sound that good, or you've got a podcast and you're just not getting around to editing it, this would be the thing to have, and it's a $69 lifetime deal. Just Google lifetime deal Treble FM on AppSumo. It's pretty cool. Like, I mean, I'm not really a big fan of lifetime deals, but I can see why people are.
Well, look at this. If you even don't get the lifetime deal, their plans are very reasonable. So you for 30 minutes a month, you can get you pay $0, free forever. So, but let's say you want to go to their most popular plan, that if you want 5 hours of transcription a month with high quality audio exports, if you pay the year, it's basically $7.99 a month. If you are billed monthly, it's $9.99 a month. Now, and that's their most popular plan. Now, the next jump is 20 hours of transcription a month and high quality, audio exports, early access to new features. That, if you pay yearly, is $19.99 up per month. If you pay yearly, if you pay monthly, it's like almost $26. So they're if I buy a lifetime deal, I only get 120 minutes per month. So you have to think about that. That's basically 2 hours. You know, I'm gonna see how many, because that's not a bad plan, but I'm gonna look at how can I buy extra minutes if I need them. So
Yeah.
yep.
You could buy probably two plans, or like, I mean, you do, like, our show went 90 minutes.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So, and that was one show, and you're probably doing one show a week.
Right,
But,
right.
the thing that's really interesting, I love Audacity. Audacity is free, but I've got to do everything, and I'm pretty good at it. I'm pretty fast, but I had to learn that, and it's very hard to learn. I just learned it over years and years and years of practicing, and I'm not going to teach anyone to do it because it's very time consuming. But I've got to do it, but it is free. So what you're paying for with these sites is you're paying for time.
Right.
You know, you're paying for the time saving. So
Right.
for $69, given that you're banking up some of this content, you could batch process one a month and just try it. At least you're getting some content out there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Mike? Are you thinking of doing a podcast? Would this sort of thing work for you, or are you more a writer?
I want to do both, and yeah, I want to go both ways too. So I want to go text to audio and video to text. So I want to go both ways, actually.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is probably not the right site, but Descript is probably quite good for that. But you got to start somewhere.
Yep.
Americo, what do you think? Is this the sort of thing you could use, or are you more a writer, or is your pain point more around the audio, or is it more around the text?
So, seeing how I stepped away from the keyboard, this is right up my alley. If I can take my audio and transcribe it and repurpose it, then it is my authentic voice and my message that is resonating through the transcription.
Yep. That's right. So it's a piece of tech that's not very expensive and could easily be a great add-on for $69. You probably could justify that. So that's pretty cool. It's very important that we have content ideas that are affordable. Like, I mean, there's millions and millions and millions of pieces of tech out there that'll all make our life better, but we got to use them, and we don't want to break the bank doing it. So this one's a very good one, treble.fm, if you've got a podcast. What about you, Philip? Are you thinking of, do you do a podcast? How do you get the word out about what you do? Do you create content?
Actually, I took time first of all to understand the industry, because once you've been on the front line doing content, you really have to adapt with times. And for me, I didn't want to do content where I'm pouring my trauma to people, or I'm pouring very sensitive information. After COVID pandemic, I took a long break, and I had to make sense of the data I have, the content I have. So right now I want to do a podcast, and I'm glad to have joined today. I'm learning about new tools. So I may reach out to you on the side to understand the best tools to use, because for me, I struggle writing. I'm still dyslexic. So I'm looking at audio to text tools, and also how I can quickly edit and also repurpose content. And for me, looking at repurposing content is how do I add visuals? How do I add visuals? How do I add? And I liked how the guy from Rotary, I forgot his name, Bez, was talking about his personal experience and how Rotary does their stuff. So for me, I'm looking at telling stories from what I did, doing a podcast, hosting people, and I may need your guidance, especially on the tools, the tips and tricks. So yeah, I'm glad today I found you guys and I stumbled on this, man. So
yeah, it's a very good format. This is why I love LinkedIn. LinkedIn has 1 billion users. This is why I do these shows. Apologies for the slight problem with tech there. But one of the things I wanted to mention is that I hate writing, hate it. So what I do is I'm not embarrassed about this. I'm 42 and I'm not embarrassed to admit it. Here's a picture of me in a bikini. This is the type of content we're getting on LinkedIn all the time. Bez, you're probably following the wrong people.
No, I'm following the right people. I don't see the stuff you see. Oh my goodness.
But
Neither do I.
perplexity.ai and another site called pi.ai, which are very similar. I type in, how do I repurpose my content? That's it. I type in a phrase and it gives me maybe a 200-word article that seems to make sense to me, and I fact check against the other one. So pi.ai, very good site, easy to use, simple. Perplexity is more like the academic version of that. Now, the words make sense. They seem to be grammatically correct. And I cheat. So I don't write articles and claim them to be mine. I write articles as show notes to the show. What does Riverside FM do? That's exactly what I asked. And it tells me this is what Riverside does: strengths, weaknesses, costs, synopsis. Okay, well, that sounds reasonable. I'll take that and I'll put it into the show notes. What does Treble FM do? Treble FM is quite similar to the others you mentioned, but it has this slight difference, which you might find really interesting. And it has a really cool lifetime deal. Maybe you could try it. So I'm the worst writer in the world. I hate writing. And I don't even try anymore. I just use Perplexity and it writes everything, and I just fact check it to make sure it's right. Now, I'm not claiming that I wrote it. I'm not writing blog posts with Perplexity, but I am writing show notes with Perplexity, because what I used to do is, because I do 3 shows a week, or I did, I said, oh, well, the show's coming up, and people saying, well, what's it about? Well, you got to come. No, Keith, what are you going to talk about? Well, okay, I get your point. I better do something about that. So I now have show notes. How do you do it, Americo? Do you have show notes? Do you write them out? Or do you use Perplexity or Pi or Copilot to help you write out some funky stuff in the English language?
I try to stay away from show notes because to the best of my ability, I want my shows to be conversational. I do have them handy. I will do some research and enter, whether it's Copilot or ChatGPT. Hey, here's what I'm talking about in the upcoming show. Can you just give me some speaker notes if I need to rely on them? And I'll get a list of however many I ask. Give me 3 or 4 talking points in case I need filler content. But that's pretty much where I ended. I try to make it as conversational and similar to your shows. It starts off with one theme, one agenda, and then there are times where it morphs into something completely different. So, but
I love what we're doing here. So what I have done today is I've set an intention that I would like to create 10 pieces of content from today's show. So let's wrap up and give ourselves some homework, and even some people in the audience that didn't come to the show. How can we take this up a notch? What I'm going to do is I've sent the show to LinkedIn and to YouTube. Those will create replays. What I will do is I've created a series of screenshots of everyone speaking. I'll send those to you with a title of what we were speaking about at that time. What I'll do for now is I'll create a piece of content around each of those using Perplexity. I'm not going to write it. And it really is a teaser to watch the whole show. But that's what I can do for now. Let's play the game. What else can we do? What, Bez, what can you commit to? I know you're busy and it's really not fair for me to ask, but what can you commit to? What's one thing you can do?
I can do one post from, or take what you give me and I can post one. and ask some people to engage on it. I can do that.
Yeah. Okay. And how would you do that? Would you write it yourself, or would you create some show notes, or use Perplexity?
Well, let's say it's I'll talk about something that stood out, and maybe I'll be around the NGO and my experience with Rotary and our conversation with Philip, and maybe that's what resonated with me today, and that's what I'll write about. And I think that has a lot of relevance to because something I've been doing is a little bit of career coaching as well, and I'm always telling people to get out there and join a civic organization. Rotary would be nice, but anything else, there's many great organizations out there: Kiwanis, Lions, Sir Optimus. I mean, Toastmasters. And to stuff in your local community, and get out there and go volunteer, and do it with the heart to give, not to receive. Because if you go with the heart to receive, you'll forever chase your tail. But if you go with the heart to give, somehow, some way, the universe finds a way to bless you over 10 times, if not more.
Yeah.
And so because sometimes, you're out there and you're doing good, and the person next to you, you don't even know who they are. And they happen to be a CEO or a community leader or somebody with access to resources. And they are watching you. And that's what tell people, it's called a walking resume. And they're checking you out. And then all of a sudden they tap you on the shoulder and they tell you, hey, come over here. I want to tell you about something. And before you know it, you either picked up a consulting gig, or you might have picked up a great job. You just never know who's watching you.
Yeah,
right.
I love this. While I've got you, have you seen that Jane Jackson now has a career chat GPT? Have you seen what Jane is doing with AI?
I'm seeing a lot of career coaches putting their own building out their chat GPT, or what we call AI agents, right?
Yeah.
And I'm actually working on one, but I'm working on one for me. So what I'm doing is I'm feeding it. I fed it 36 pages of my writing so that I can prompt it and get at least a first draft, and then from there I can, like you said, tighten it up. But what I fed it was a lot of my own writing, so it writes in my voice, because I sort of have a, even though I can be formal and button up like my suit on my profile, I sort of have a loose way of how I talk. Not too loose, but a little bit. I like a little fun in there. And then I sort of write how I talk. And so I like to have that little not so perfect English, but people get what I'm trying to say. I like emojis, and I like to, break it up so that people don't just read like a bunch of text together, right? And I like to introduce controversial ways of thinking, and so that's my style.
In a way, that's a way of repurposing you, isn't it? Like I said to Jane, who's a career coach,
Mhm.
this is a fantastic funnel. Like, I mean, you can't be everywhere for everyone, but imagine if someone came in, and I don't even know how she uses it or how she would, but imagine if someone who's just lost their job but can't afford her, and she's busy helping people that are paying her, said, look, I really do need a job. What can I do? She could have a career GPT that helps people find a job that can't afford to pay her hourly rate. And is that how people are using it?
I have when stuff is free, people don't value it. I would take that and give it to, well, I guess there's I've seen some people do it, and what they do is they give you a little taste of it, and then at the end of the AI agent, it's a funnel, right? So it's a funnel to, which is, hey, it's a method, right? Um but I think if what I'm going to do is reserve some of this goodness for my paying clients, because they'll appreciate it. I might do something like very unique, that's a one-off, that's very specific, that's free to the public. But it's like, hey, you want, not that I don't mind giving stuff for free, but it's free stuff is without context, And if I tell you quit applying, you know what, you're going to jump off the cliff, because that's what I teach people. I don't teach people how to apply. So, but it's context. Hey, where are you at in your career? Some people actually earlier in the career that works. It's never worked for me in 30 years. But I've noticed that people, when they've got a career and then they go into leadership, that hey, that's a 0.03 success rate. So I don't teach that. I don't teach you how to fail. I teach you, hey, what are things that are going to work out there? And I'm a recruiter, so I've got a perspective from a third party and an internal perspective, because I've worked in both settings.
I just love this. I actually just love this. Okay, so Mike, from what we've talked about today, what is a piece of content you could possibly create, and how can we help you do that with what we've done? I'm aiming for 10 pieces of content from every show. I'm creating 5 of them. How can we create the other 5?
Well, I have some homework for you. If you give me the the audio for this, I will feed that into Nuda, and then either I'll create maybe even a newsletter article, and maybe even the.
I love it. Now, do you specifically want the audio, or are you happy with the video? The video defaults, but I can get the audio for sure.
Well, will Nuda take the video and do its thing?
Yeah, does it take MP4s? Let's try both. The Restream saves as a really weird file, but I can convert it to an MP3, and that would be lighter. So this is a very good use case in the subject we're talking about. There's no point. I heard this really great quote today, and that is, you don't learn to swim by reading about water. You got to get in, right? You got to get in there and swing your arms and have a go, right?
I'll give Nuda a go. Either way, it says audio and video files, so
yeah, it should.
Give me either or both.
Yeah, I'll get the video and I'll load it to Google Drive. What do you think, Philip? What can we do for you to help you get some word out? This is a sort of a new piece of information. I'll connect with you and send you some of these screenshots. What do you think?
I think for me, is as a thought leader who has been on the front line for the last 2 decades. I think, and by the way, this is the first time I'm getting online since I think 2 years. I've been off audio platforms, off lives, and I feel like I'm in kindergarten learning tools. I'm hearing about Tribble. I'm hearing about new tools today. I'm like, is it possible we have a side channel? You give me tools, because I can be able to demo some of these tools and showcase them, and even review some of these podcasts from my own perspective and how I'm learning from you. And thanks for the great tools. Thanks for the great panel. And for me, this is a learning curve. And thanks for, you guys are so resourceful, especially of the tools, the tips, the tricks. I really appreciate, man. So I'm looking to learn from you, Kit. So let's get in touch, man.
Yeah, okay, no worries. Now, I won't say that this show was sponsored by Nuta, because that's not the truth, but I am very inspired by this topic and this subject and this piece of tech. So I'm going to pull apart this idea and see how it works. It's a very robust alternative to the other ones we've mentioned. I only have heard of it 2 days ago, but it does have 100,000 users. So it must have a bit of a kudos to it. I'm going to try that. So what I'm going to do now, as a way of finishing the show, we've been chatting for 3 hours. It's pretty cool. I'm going to play some music, and then I'm just going to roll you through all the slides we've talked about to give you a bit of a sort of an understanding. The show will then become a replay on YouTube and LinkedIn immediately afterwards. I'll get the file if you want it, and I'll put it on the Google Drive. You can play with it. You can pull it apart in whatever format you're using, and we'll just see if we can get our 10 pieces of content out today. So I'm gonna play a little sound, a little bit of music, and then I'm gonna go and get some lunch and Play human for a while. So let me just play my little theme song.
Cheerio.
And I've got it all queued up.
Cheerio.
Cheerio.
Hey, check out.
You've been listening to Keith Keller in Melbourne, Australia. How are you repurposing your content?
Wow. Wow.